The Butt Kicker Gamer 2. What you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Hello everybody and welcome to some more Precision Racing League action here on Monday night with later on the LMP3 and GT4 series, but first the GR86 series from Lime Rock Park. We're going to one of the shorter circuits, one of those tighter, twistier circuits compared to next week. We'll be at Monza in this series, but for now it's the confines of Lime Rock Park, a circuit that everyone will be familiar with, a circuit that a lot of people enjoy with its rises and falls, its flowing nature, but also the suitability that these cars have with it. My name is Ewan O'Leary, alongside Joey Tebben here for this evening as GT Clock is off elsewhere. Good to have you alongside me, Joey, for GR86 action first of all, a circuit familiar with here at Lime Rock Park, of course, and it's a pretty enjoyable one as well, with the rises and falls that it brings and the technical challenge as well.
And Lime Rock Park, a couple of hours north from where I'm sitting right here in Connecticut. I can almost hear the din of the GR86s from a couple hundred miles away. It's a fantastically suited combination. Just high-speed corners all the way around. A couple of heavy braking zones, or rather than a couple, one singular heavy braking zone into turn one. That's going to be a critical passing opportunity for the rest of the lap. It's just going to be the ultimate test of how brave can you be, how can you stay in line, and how much grip can you possibly withstand with these open setups.
I do love how you said that 2 hours is quite a close circuit, because I'm pretty sure I can visit more than half of the UK circuit in 2 hours.
You'd be in the ocean with a 2 hour drive.
Yeah, anyway, we'll gloss over that. As I say, it's Monza next week, followed by Watkins Glen and Road America. Next week, the last time will be outside of the United States in what's been quite a heavily weighted schedule towards that part of the world, but that's absolutely fine because we've had some good racing within that. Lime Rock Park coming up here, the classic layout if you like, as we've described it here, as we round out our season. Very, very different, though, to Monza GP without the first chicane, which we're going to get next week. It's going to be a bit of a shock to the system when we run down towards Turn 1, or what is normally Turn 1 anyway, and we just fly through there anyway. Had a lot of fun at Monza last season in the GR86 and MX5 series, expecting it to be the same here in this one. In terms of the championship standings, you won't be surprised to learn that Alexis Moisan is leading those. If you've been with us for any of the races so far, he's won all of them. He's only not taken pole in one of them. Andrew Sharp there in third took the pole position away from him on a singular occasion. Rafael Franco is up there as well in terms of the championship. Graham Wildman is fourth ahead of Jeremy Snyder, and then there is Nathan Miller sixth ahead of Kevin Berkvist, with Patrick Reed, Ian Cabana and Greg Bell all tied on 202 points, which is somewhat bizarre. But that's the way that the points have gone so far this season. In the team's championship standings, booked after victory are leading by 110 points right now. Of course, being led by Alexis Moisan, who is on their team. Modman Racing in second ahead of Crikey Esports, and it's quite close to Darkroom as well. Vulture Motorsports are not far in front of Precision Racing Esports, with Team Huntingdon down in 7th place in the team's standings so far. We are just about in qualifying as things stand, and we'll get those times up to you in a few moments' time, but not before we thank our sponsors for making this broadcast possible, starting with Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminium profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision 5 coupon code. This broadcast also brought to you by Racebox. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, our button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and get a 5% discount using the Precision 5 coupon code. This broadcast also brought to you by the Bookkicker. Bookkicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Mecha Sim Hardware is a small company from the Czech Republic, and their goal is to produce high-quality sim racing hardware. If you're looking for a high-end pedal set, handbrake or sequential shifter, visit Mecha Sim Hardware's eShop right now to get you up to speed. Moradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. For more information, visit moradness.com. And finally, Mr. Head Sim Racing Photography. Capture your finest, proudest, or simply worst moments of your hobby in up to 8K resolution. A great addition to any sim room. Big thanks to all of those sponsors who make these broadcasts possible here every night on RaceSpotTV. The Precision Racing League returning once again here on Monday nights. GR86 Series first, LMP3s and GT4s coming up a little bit later on. It's Alexis Moisan who currently leads the qualifying times with a 56.0. Very, very short lap around here, so plenty of attempts, but it looks like it's going to be Alexis Moisan leading the field away, and honestly, Joey, that really wouldn't be a surprise given 5 of the 6 rounds so far he has taken pole in.
No surprise whatsoever. That's only been done 2 times in the PRL before. Karl Modoff won 8 out of 8 races in an early GT3 season, and a couple of seasons ago here on RaceSpotTV, Sean Campbell won 10 out of 10 races in the GT4 series. So Alexis Moisan could be going for history here. There's many drivers who hope they can break that duck, though. Michael Lortie having a little bit of trouble through turn 1. He's going to need to find some speed on some further runs, maybe figure out the braking into turn 1, which is exceptionally difficult here. You want to go so deep into turn 1 because it is the heaviest braking zone on the track. It's a great passing opportunity, but you get a little bit out of shape, a little bit too late in the brakes in these cars, Ewan, and you're flying off into a sea of grass.
They're difficult to bring back from that kind of situation, really, once you're in that place. As drivers slow down before the start-finish line there and turn back to the pit lane. The advantage that they will have in this qualifying session, though, is the fact that times are taking less than a minute, as that seems to be someone having a bit of an issue at the final corner. But as you can see, plenty of drivers taking trips down pit lane and coming straight back out again, because there's really no time pressure on this one. In fact, we're going to get nearly 40 laps in this race, which is quite a staggering amount, especially compared to some of the other tracks that we've been to this season, and some of the other ones that we're going to go to as well. It's very, very short around here, and it's really flowing as well, I think it's fair to say. Just 7 corners around here, Joey, but no big stops really other than turn 1, and none of those pesky chicanes as well, which really do interrupt the rhythm and make this circuit a little bit less enjoyable to drive, in my opinion, than you get with this layout where you fly straight through.
Yeah, you did see that chicane there up at the top of the hill. Last season, I believe we went to that layout in the Production Car Challenge, but not here. This is the old classic Lime Rock. There's one single left-hand corner. Every single other corner on this track is a right-hand corner. It's basically a road course oval, in a way you could say that, and it's certainly going to feel like that. It's a little bit of a bull ring once race time comes around. This series does follow the Production Car Challenge schedule, the official series from iRacing, so I think lately with that series, they've been kind of going a little bit funky with the track layouts, because it is kind of a little bit of a goofy series with the Mustang and the GR86 and the MX-5 and the Clio, so we've kind of gone off the beaten path to, this track, the classic layout, Monza Junior, Monza with no chicanes, the Phoenix road course. I like going to these crazy tracks. It's something different, but it's certainly difficult to have to learn some new tracks.
Very important series, by the way, our lad, for getting yourself up the rankings in iRacing, as I've found out in the last month or so. But yeah, I don't mind the slightly more unusual circuits. Andrew Sharp looks like he's run out of fuel there, unless he's just lifting off down the straight. Well, maybe think he was lifting off there, just letting 1 or 2 drivers through. Track space a little bit of a problem here, I would imagine, but not terrible. 15 of them who have currently set times, 16 in the session as far as our timing screen is to be believed, and that does put a little bit of pressure on you to find a bit of space. I'm not going to do the maths on quite how regular that means people will be, but 3 or 4 seconds, every 3 or 4 seconds there should be a car placed out on the circuit. That should be enough space for everybody to be getting on with, but we'll see how it plays out in reality. So you can see another lifting off. Sharp, the one who's been allowed to go through on this occasion. But yeah, it looks like these times are fairly settled. With so many attempts that you get, you do tend to reach a bit of a limit. But in the last couple of moments, Tyler Edwards did improve there. He's now at a 56.1, only 36 thousandths behind Moisan, who's going to be difficult to beat, of course. But once again, he's going to be challenged, and that couldn't be said at the start of the season. Everybody has been getting a little bit closer to him as this season has gone on. Yeah,
that's partially because of kind of some of the funky layouts we've gone to. The closest race this season was over at Monza Junior when Greg Bell came so close to winning that race. See the 29 of Patrick Reed having a little bit of trouble through turn 3 there. But the draft is so important here in qualifying. You saw Tyler Edwards getting a huge draft down the front straight from Buddy Chamberlain. That really helped him, but starting second's great. You really do want to start first if you want to beat Alexis Moisan here. You need to take the track position away from Alexis, because if he gets out front in the race, he's basically been known to run away with things. As much as you can do that at this track, you want to start ahead. You want to get him on the off foot already. That's how you're going to break this winless streak, or this all-winning streak, rather.
Yep, it's a winless streak for everyone else, I suppose, but they might not be looking at it like that. The championship battle is certainly settling down as a result of Alexis Moisan's drop round at the moment is a score of 55, which is what you get for winning a race without pole position or fastest lap. So that's the situation we find ourselves in terms of...
It's a pretty good situation to find yourself in.
Yeah, in terms of points, he's a long way away. We talk about that safety net often, about even if he has a poor round, he will still get 55 points added to his score because of the drop points. So the battle, I think, that would be interesting for us, I think, is between Rafael Franco and Andrew Sharp for second place. Can't see Franco in this session though at the moment, and that's going to be a problem because his drop score currently is also a DNS, or a DNF, excuse me, back at the second round. So maybe Andrew Sharp is going to take over that second place by quite some distance after today's round.
And it seems like that'll be pretty easy to do. Unless Sharp does miss another round, I don't think he will, as he is the organizer of this series in the PRL, so he's got every intention to be here for every single round. You see a little bit of teamwork here between the two very, very similarly liveried GR86s. That is no coincidence. It's the two bump draft victory cars of Moisan and Schneider. Jeremy Schneider a little bit deeper in the order than he'd like to be, P7 right now. He also came close to beating his teammate at Monza Junior a couple of weeks ago. He doesn't want his teammate to continue the all-winning streak, so let's see if he can get some help here. Coming down the front straight, that's not going to help at all. You want to carry so much speed through that final corner, but if you clip the grass, it just screws up your run through the entire front straight and basically writes off the entire lap. You need a good run down the front stretch.
So easy to do as well around here, just to get yourself in a place where you don't want to be. It's very, very easy to do. Snyder has experienced that. He is pushing on with this, though somewhat surprised with only just over a minute remaining, but he's pushing on here, maybe learning a thing or two from Alexis Moisan in front, maybe getting or certainly getting a little bit of a slipstream. The team play here certainly very helpful. See the slight lift off on the way towards turn 5, then the rise up the hill. The revs rise as the car gets light slightly, and then turn 6. Another high commitment corner, then the final turn, downhill at turn 7, speed really running away with you, and Snyder a lot more in control of the car on this occasion. You get that little bit of a slipstream towards the line as well, and he might well still improve. He does. Well, makes you wonder a little bit how many positions he could have gained without that mistake, because Jared Farrowell really isn't very far ahead of Snyder after this.
Well, that's why Schneider's going for one more lap here, I think. I think he's been communicating with his teammate Alexis, said, you know what, I screwed up the exit of turn 7 on that previous lap. Give me one more shot here, one more lap of draft. We have the time to do it. And now this is going to be the money lap for Schneider, I think.
It's going to have to be. The time is ticking away. That'll be the end of the session. Tyler Edwards still in the pit lane, by the way. It looks like Alexis Moisan is going to take pole here without a miracle from somebody else. It's somewhat ironic if he tows Jeremy Snyder to pole, but given the fact he needs to find half a second to manage that, it might not happen. And that was a bit of grass on the exit of turn 6 as well. Not ideal for Snyder. I wonder whether this is going to be an improvement at all. I don't think it will be. Pulls to the inside there, and that is the end of his session. Moisan as well comes over the line, having not improved there on that most recent lap time. So Alexis Moisan is going to take the pole position, and he will lead the field to green here at Lime Rock Park. Let's take a look at your starting grid before this 7th race of the Toyota GR86 series season gets underway here in the PRL for this season. It's Moisan and Tyler Edwards on the front row, with Andrew Sharp searching for that second place in the championship alongside Jared Farrowell on row 2. Graham Woolman and Buddy Chamberlain are on row 3 together. Row 4 will be shared by Jeremy Snyder and Francis Castillo-Romeo, who's a little bit further down than maybe we would expect to see him. Matthew Sudvik is in 9th ahead of Kevin Bergqvist to round out the top 10. Then there's Patrick Reed and Michael Lawty in row 6. Ian Cabana and Louis Barraza are on row 7, with Edward Peltz, final driver, to set one lap 2 seconds down on the rest of the field. As I mentioned, we did have Tom Stevens in the session there at the in qualifying, but I'm not sure he's going to take the start based on that qualifying session. He's not set a time, so I don't think he will be leaving the pit lane for the race either. But let's wait and see on that one. Full pace lap around here at Lime Rock, and 35 minutes on the clock as well. I do wonder here how easy it's going to be to overtake, because I know that these cars are suited to this circuit in terms of their speed and the tight and twisty nature of Lime Rock Park. That seems to go hand in hand quite nicely, but it's also a very twisty circuit with not very many big braking zones. I wonder how difficult that's going to make the overtaking over the course of this race.
It's going to be very difficult because, as you said, the only real big braking zone is at turn 1. You do a little bit of a lift for turn 3. You maybe lift a little bit coming into the final corner, but other than that, there are no braking zones other than turn 1. So you've got to do a lot of work if you want to make a move stick. But I think something Tyler Edwards is going to be thinking about. I think something that third placed Andrew Sharp is going to be thinking about. They're going to be thinking about the likely draft train that's going to come into play here over the course of the next 35 minutes. And they're going to be thinking, can I save a little bit of fuel riding behind Alexis Moisan? I might not be able to pass him on track, but if I can save a little bit of fuel, get a shorter pit stop, and I can jump him in the pits instead of having to do the hard thing, which would be making the pass on track.
It's going to be the key moment in the race. It was last week, certainly. Remember back to Mid-Ohio, round 6 of this championship. Really fought for the first time. I know Moisan's been challenged so far this season, but for the first time, I really thought he was in big danger of not winning for the first time. Andrew Sharp was putting him under supreme pressure. He did get the pole position and the fastest lap throughout the day. did Sharp. But in the end, that pit stop phase you were just talking about was the key moment. Moisan came out in front. Sharp couldn't close the gap again, and in the end it was 1.7 seconds. Wonder whether we're going to see a race rather like that, whether it's going to be a challenge in that kind of way, and the win is by a couple of seconds here or there, or whether we're going to see even a race like we saw at Monza, where it was less than a second between 1 and 2 by the line. Is that going to be the case here at Lime Rock Park? I just don't think the draft is going to be quite strong enough to keep the field together as it did at Monza Junior around here, because after all, you've got to remember that this is quite a twisty circuit and there's a lot of corners for you to make the difference over the course of a lap. Yeah, the straights aren't quite as long and the straights aren't quite as straight as they are at Monza, so it's not necessarily... That was kind of the most oval-like road course you can get over there. This is a little bit more road coursey. There is going to be a little bit more separation, but I think there still will be a pretty long draft train. And you have to look deeper in the pack to some of the heavy hitters back there. Schneider, Francis Romero deeper in the field than they all normally are. I think they all have, they're all thinking about saving fuel as well back there and hoping to move their way through traffic. Be interested to see if they can. Formation lap almost complete then, and round 7 of the GR86 series here in the PRL is about to get underway. The first time these cars have raced a season entirely alone on the circuit after the production car challenge last season. It's time to go racing here at Lime Rock Park. Alexis Moisan with his 6th pole out of 7 takes the field to green, and he already pulls to the racing line in towards turn 1. Tyler Edwards able to rip round the outside of Andrew Sharp in towards the first turn, and he'll take 2nd place with Graham Woolman and Jared Farrell going side by side for 4th place just behind. That was through turn 1 and 2. Now into turn 3, they're still side by side for 4th there. 65 and the 53. Eventually, Farrell comes out on top as they complete the opening sector of the opening lap. It's a clean start from the leaders. It's side by side further behind as Graham Woolman is pushed further back. The big start from Jeremy Schneider, up 2 spots already. He's really pounced on that start, and unfortunately the fan club in the chat for Graham Wildman, they're all out tonight, but they just had to watch him get past here on lap 1. He's going to slot back in line, P6. Hasn't lost too much. You look a little bit further back, Buddy Chamberlain in the 55. You saw him off the track in the background. He's been the biggest loser on lap 1. We've had all kinds of problems on lap 1. Buddy Chamberlain, one of them, as you say. I think Patrick Reed, Edward Peltz, Louis Barraza and Michael Lawty have all been involved as well. Look at the way the field is strung out already. 1 lap complete. The field are all over the place. There's definitely been issues here. Patrick Reed pulls into the pit lane now. He's surely got damage a little bit further back. It's a very narrow circuit at the end of the day here, Joey. There's not exactly runoff that you can go and in search of. If you're trying to avoid an accident, you kind of into any crash that happens in front of you, especially if you're starting down at the back. And you wouldn't think with as low-powered of a vehicle as these that it would be especially difficult to drive on lap 1, but you can see the elevation change going up the hill there. When these tires are cold, it is exceptionally difficult to maintain control of this car on lap 1. So Reed, Cabana, Lortie, all running into assorted amounts of trouble. They're all down pit lane already for heavy damage repair, especially Lortie. It's bad luck already. It's an old-style track. There's no margin for error, and Andrew Sharp thinks there's no margin for waiting. He gets to the inside of Tyler Edwards, but the door gets shut on him. Still trying to stick it through, but I think Edwards is going to have him on the outside. Let's take a look at lap 1 as we also get the picture-in-picture. Ah, there's the moment. Oh, that's a big incident, I'm afraid. 3 or 4 involved. Louis Barraza slowing down so much to avoid everyone, in fact. But yeah, it was just down here in towards turn 5. Not really a corner. It's just sort of a bendy straight, I suppose, is the best way I can describe it. And the car's tipped into the wall. No way of avoiding it either. Seems a little bit clumsy on lap 1, really. Not sure whether the car that ended up in the wall was the one that maybe came over on someone else, or whether they were tipped into a spin, or what was going on there. But unfortunate for all of them, there's very big damage down there now. This is really unfortunate for Tyler Edwards. Andrew Sharp tried to go for that dive before we cut away in turn 1. It didn't work out. Gained nothing from that other than basically losing these two, the gap to Alexis Moisan. He's pulled a full second. He's pulled out of draft range now. And while these guys are trying to fight for second, they're basically only fighting for second. They're kind of losing the chance to fight for the lead. I know Andrew Sharp probably thinks he's faster than Tyler Edwards right now, and he might well be, but fighting with Tyler Edwards for this long is just slowing both of them down, and
I do have to think right now, do we want to fight for this position, or do we want to ride in line for a little bit longer and try and close back down to the leader?
I mean, I would say that, or question the fact that, do they even believe that they can beat Moisan already? The gap was already 8/10 of a second or so. Did Sharp think, well, we might as well start fighting for this second place already, because Moisan's already gone up the road, he's already got a second. Maybe he doesn't see a way back for them, but it does seem a bit of a negative way to race. Still in the first 5 minutes of this one.
Yeah, that is, it's difficult to race in this series this season. When you have a guy like Alexis Moisan, who is so difficult to beat, you basically need to get him on an off foot on lap 1, get him second, third, somewhere deeper in the field if you want to beat him. Because if he gets out front in the race, it is exceptionally difficult to stick with him, it's exceptionally difficult to beat him, it's exceptionally difficult to catch up, basically. It's such a difficult task. They're all trying to do it, and I think Tyler Edwards is doing a good job of switching the wick back on, moving forward again, trying to get within a second and get within that critical draft range, but it's so difficult, and Andrew Sharp has made a bobble of his own and trying to stick with him.
Yeah, there's a bit of a gap opening there now. Farewell and Schneider very close to the drivers in front. Ray Wellman and Francis Castillo-Romeo are fighting for 6th place here. This is what you can see on your screen as Schneider gets really close to Farewell. If he's going to have a look in towards turn 1, not for the moment. Maybe deciding that this is not the moment to be going through. Still only 5 minutes into this race, 5 laps gone as well. Moisan leads from Edwards, Sharp, Farewell, Schneider, the top 5. And Tyler Edwards is doing a good job here. As we've seen so many times this season, when Moisan gets a gap, he's often never seen again. But Edwards has brought that gap down from 1.1 now to less than 8/10 of a second in a matter of a couple of laps. It's an impressive drive so far from Tyler Edwards, but he's still got an awful lot of work to do to displace Moisan from this lead.
And I do wonder, is this Tyler Edwards legitimately bringing down this gap, or is this Alexis Moisan maybe lifting a little bit earlier than he normally would, saving a little bit of fuel, kind of playing with Tyler Edwards a little bit and letting him kind of get a peek at the front, letting him catch up just a little bit while also saving enough fuel that he'd just be able to beat him once the pit stop phase comes around anyway. See Matthew Cherwick in the background hard into the wall out of the final corner, and there's a dive into turn 1. Schneider versus Farewell. Oh, that was very close. Scraping the paint off the doors, but Schneider's up to P4.
That was aggressive, but a good move from Schneider, who gets one position closer to his teammate once again. There's Sherrick coming into the pit lane, but yeah, great pass from Jeremy Schneider there in towards turns 1 and 2. Farewell not even the ability to reply on the outside line there, and he misses the apex slightly of turn 5 as well. That's only going to open the gap further and only going to pull him into the clutches of that fight for 6th place now, with Wellman and Francis Castillo-Romeo in the 7th place there as well. So not ideal for Farewell as he makes his way around the final corner. He'll have to just stay in line as Edwards begins to weave around a little bit. One of the drivers who's been in pit lane so far makes their way out of the pit lane. I think that was Serwick already, maybe. Just getting out, staying on the lead lap for the moment, but not ideal to be in the wall through the final corner there. Possibly a bit of an obstacle in the road for Moisan. He might have to put a lap on him very soon.
Yeah, I think you're right. We didn't quite see the pit exit there, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, Cherwick is directly ahead of Alexis Moisan right now. But let's take a look at what happened to him first and foremost. Coming into the penultimate corner, everything looks all good, but a little bit wide onto the grass, trying to save it, trying to get it back on the road. And then the difference in the coefficients of friction between the grass and the asphalt, a little bit too much of a swerve, has to overcorrect it, and then there's no margin for error at Lime Rock. There's Armco all the way around this place, and he's going to join the used car lot that's still circling around here.
There's plenty of beaten up cars by now. Another driver going a lap down then. He did make his way out on the lead lap, but he has just been put a lap down now in 12th place, as is Patrick Reed, Ian Cabana and Michael Lawty, both 2 laps down at this stage. Tyler Edwards was able to get clear as well pretty quickly, so now he's close to Moisan. Still less than 10 minutes into this race, and it's a real chase at the front of the field between these two. Moisan holding everybody at arm's length for now. But even if Edwards was able to get on terms, as you said earlier, Joey, there's a question of how much is Alexis Moisan actually pushing here? How much is he saving in terms of fuel? And is he just going to beat them all in the pit stop phase anyway, as he did last week?
That is the question, and it's Tyler Edwards has shown a lot of pace so far in this session. In practice, only about a 10th off of Moisen's fastest lap. In qualifying, even less, 36 thousandths off. So he's definitely got the pace to stick with him, and clearly he does have the pace to close down the gap in a way. But he's kind of been inconsistent here. You see that gap ballooning back up to 1.2 seconds, especially here at turn 4. He's not getting the best exits in the world, getting a little bit wide. You see him do it again, almost throws it off the road. That's bringing Sharp back in. It's letting Moisen pull away again.
Not good news for them at all in terms of winning this race. Need to be absolutely on it 100% of the time here to catch Alexis Moisen. And right now, Tyler Edwards has not quite managed that. And then he's got the pressure from behind. And is that going to only take more speed out of this group? Through the final turn they'll go now, aiming to not get too wide and in towards the grass there. Edwards weaves around a little bit now, not to chase the slipstream of Moisen, but to break the slipstream of Sharp. And as soon as you're starting to look behind like that, you're looking in the mirrors, you're not quite hitting your braking zones and your apexes quite as well as you were before, and that's only going to diminish the speed of this second group and only going to extend the lead of Alexis Moisen.
And if we look at Alexis Moisen, what he's doing is he's literally extending every single inch of this track. He's not holding anything back. It's so hard to describe because he is just absolutely picture perfect. Every single time we see him going into any one of these corners, he's got half of a wheel on the grass. He knows the perfect limits of the track. We're not going to see him make a mistake as we haven't all season. It's just so masterful to watch. And if he can do a perfect season this season, it's going to be incredible, but I don't think it'll be incredible for anybody else in the field.
We'll, yeah, not get too excited or ahead of ourselves because there's still a long way to go. Still Monza next week, which I'm especially looking forward to, I've got to say. But you mentioned the Monza Junior race earlier, but if you want straights, then Monza without the first chicane has plenty of that, and that's going to keep the field very, very close together. I'm a little bit sad that we're not using the oval / Grand Prix layout combined that we did last season in the Production Car Challenge, because that was fantastic fun, but it's unfortunately not on the schedule here this season. But that's going to be a problem for Moisen. If there's any race remaining where I think it's a bit of a lottery almost, and he could very much lose that race, then that would be the one for me, because everybody could, well, not everybody, but a lot of the drivers will be able to stay close at that particular race. I mean, if the top 7 was as close next week as they are this week at that circuit, then they'd all be in the same draft train, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's the one I have circled. So that could very well be the place where everything goes down. If Greg Bell's back in the field, he's going to be looking for revenge after his close finish there. Jeremy Schneider as well came close at Monza, and then Tyler Edwards, Andrew Sharp, Jarrett Farewell, Wildman, Francis Castillo-Romero has been so successful in other categories in the PRL. It's going to be a very, very competitive race next week, and it's going to be kind of a combination of crazy races on Monday night. We've got this at Monza with no first chicane, and then we've got the LMP3s and GT4s at Willow Springs. It's crazy enough tonight with the old classics Lime Rock and Road America, but it's only going to get more crazy next week.
I don't even know where Willow Springs goes in terms of... Is it left first or right?
The left. I know that much at least.
Well, thank you.
It's like a Californian Phillip Island.
It doesn't even think, I thought it was fictional, to be honest, but I suppose
unfortunately, Ford versus Ferrari was real.
Apparently it is a real thing, so there we are. But yeah, not a circuit that's used very often, but very much looking forward to going to Willow Springs for the first time in the PRL, as it's recently been added, of course, but that's going to be to worry about next week, of course. Road America coming up a little bit later on, or the LMP3-GT4 challenge, as we've got a car off in front of the leaders. Pulls off to the right-hand side. I think it was Ian Cabana, goes a third lap down. And by the way, on the lap previous, as we were talking about Willow Springs and whether it goes right or left first, Edward Peltz went a lap down as a result of a spin in the first sector of the lap. So those drivers now even further from the lead. Everybody, though, is quite far from Alexis Moisen. The gap grows to 2 seconds for the first time. Edwards now under supreme pressure from the rest of the top 5.
Yeah, this has become a race for second, and it's going to be just as hard fought of a race as it would be if it was for the lead, because all these guys know that even if Moist Sand does hold this huge lead, second place is still a solid result. Points pay for every single position in the PRL, so that could all come critical in these points battles at the end of the season. But here's what happened to Peltz into turn 1. You got to brake super late into turn 1 in these cars, but if you're that little bit too late, that's what happens. There's no margin for error. There's a little bit of grass that you can flail around in and get back on track, but yeah, it's not ideal.
Just that car in the background there coming around the corner was the leader, and so he had to stay out of the way of the entirety of the top 7 there. So he got back going again. Looked to try and catch Louis Barraza for a top 10, you would imagine, at this stage. A little look at a replay of Ian Cabana as well. This was, I think, things all wrong. Was this one Edward Peltz? It looks like this one was Edward Peltz, actually. Maybe he did both of those incidents. As Andrew Sharp looks to have been off the road through the final corner, or he's just in the pit lane. So
interesting choice. Breaking out of the train. I don't know if that's the right move. He's losing the draft train, but I think he thinks Edwards is holding everybody up, so he's going to try and get out of traffic, but he might be slower doing that without a draft.
Oh, and also, we're not even 15 minutes into the race. It's a little bit early in terms of this pit stop. I think he'll be fine in terms of making it on fuel. I think he's come in at the earliest opportunity, though, and I do wonder whether that's the right call. 8 seconds in terms of the pit stop there. He's come out in clean air in terms of track position, but he will have a couple of people to put a lap downwards over it once again after they've unlapped themselves, and well, that car's dealt with on the outside. A little spin at turn 1 and 2 for one of the drivers, but yeah, early stop from Sharp, and it's interesting to see how the others will react. Oh, Edwards gets it all wrong at the penultimate turn. He'll come back onto the road right in front of Farrowell, who has to skip by him. Snyder responds. Farrowell will continue on with Edwards, but Jeremy Snyder's in the pit lane, possibly to avoid that. And here's Graham Wilburn coming through on the inside line. He's through into third place.
I don't know why Farrowell didn't choose to come into the pits there, because he'd already lost all that time checking up for Edwards. Might as well minimize your losses and come in with a buddy in Schneider. But he stayed out for the track position. He's basically going to be fighting for 4th now, I think, because Schneider did manage to avoid all that drama pretty much. He didn't have to check up at all for Edwards, except maybe a little bit of a cautionary checkup, and he's come out almost ahead of Andrew Sharp. Sharp has cleared him now, but Andrew Sharp has just got an absolute gift here. He should be able to come out in 2nd once everything cycles through. And Tyler Edwards might not even be in the top 5.
I think you're right that Farrell should have come into the pit lane there, because they've resigned themselves to fighting for 4th now, in my opinion. Tyler Edwards, though, big save from him. It all went wrong at the top of the hill at turn 6. Saved it, but then got onto the grass throughout turn 7, and that is a dangerous place to be. You end up right on the apex there. Snyder wanted to come in anyway. Farrell probably should have done. He was expecting Edwards to go out right into the middle of the road. In the end, it didn't happen like that, and everybody was on the right-hand side. He's in the grass again on the way towards the pit entry, and maybe could have decided to come in. And then Wellman came in on the scene and got through on Edwards. And now this group is really close. Oh my word, that was a save from Francis Castillo-Romeo in the background, who takes himself now out of this fight for 2nd place.
Just send City, save City at Lime Rock so far tonight. Everybody carrying as much speed as they humanly can, and sometimes that's too much. You just saw Tyler Edwards getting a little bit wide up over the top of the hill. You saw Francis Castillo doing the same thing. Then through the final corner, there's a little bit more conservatism from Tyler Edwards. He's going to bring it down pit lane this time. It's a very, very wide open pit window. It's not as similar as I think I would have expected. Lots of drivers just coming in on totally alternate laps, no coordination and strategy whatsoever, no help from any cars in front. Everybody's basically just on their own game tonight.
It's just every man for themselves at the moment. Andrew Sharp and Jeremy Snyder will probably get through on Tyler Edwards here, and they do pretty comfortably. And that really illustrates the point here. Sharp and Snyder, I think, will be 2nd and 3rd. In what order, we don't know just yet, but all of that kerfuffle at the final corner, I think, with Edwards and everybody else, has put paid to their chances of a podium here. And Farrell and Wyman here, I think, are fighting for 4th place by the time the pit stops all shake out.
Making the YouTube chat very happy here, though, with Graham Wildman. P3 at the moment. Likely going to cycle around to P5, I think, once everything cycles around, but you never know. Sharp and Schneider very close. More crazy things could happen, and it could be 2 podiums in a row for Wildman. You never know. Either way, he's hunting Jared Farrell down. Bright orange Wildman versus kind of bright purple Farewell. Titanic battles all through the field here, and Wildman's really been kind of a late bloomer, not necessarily in the series, but in this race. Got a good start, made up a couple of spots, and now he's starting to really get aggressive in the second half of the race.
Time to move forward that little bit as we approach that quarter of an hour remaining. We're over halfway now in this race. Still quite a way to go though. There's still a lot to do for drivers who are wanting to finish on the podium here. Which of course means that these guys will count themselves as one. Francis Castillo-Romeo comes in the background, although he will probably be outside the top 5 by the end of this pit stop phase. Quarter of an hour to go. Very wide pit window, as you mentioned, so interesting to see the different strategies, but that wasn't ideal for Jeremy Snyder at the top of the hill there at turn 6. Got very close to Andrew Sharp, but went wide, and now has got a lot of catching up to do in this fight for what will become second place.
And now here's the easy blend with Francis Castillo-Romero. Francis isn't even out of the pits yet. These two are going to blow by him. And I think he might be able to get by Tyler Edwards. Not quite. Edwards gets by Francis Castillo. That's going to be all of that cycled out. Still a bunch of drivers who haven't come in. Chamberlain, Bergquist, Wildman, Farewell, and Moisem. Waiting for all of them to come in, make those final stops, and then we will finally get the official order. It's going to be a difficult time for some of these guys, though, a little bit further behind. Francis Castillo getting around a lapped car, almost getting into the back of him. There's basically destroyed cars all around the track after all that drama on lap 1. They're not moving chicanes because of the driver's skill. They're moving chicanes just because of the heavily damaged cars. They're trying to finish the raase.
Only one of them is out of the race at the moment. Michael Lotti is out, but the rest of them are continuing on here with varying levels of damage as well out there on the circuit, which is proving a bit of a problem for some of the leaders. You can see the intervals now on the left-hand side. The battle's going on everywhere. Up for second between Farrow and Wildman is on your screen at the moment. Then there's one between Chamberlain and Bergquist for 4th. Sharp and Snyder for 6th. Be some others developing as we go along as well for 8th place quite possibly. But how much longer can these guys go on for? Well, not that much longer. Farrowell's in, Wildman as well. They've got to be careful not to hit each other on the way into pit entry here. It's a very short pit lane, and they'll now be attempting the shortest pit stop possible here in an attempt to try and come out at least near Sharp and Snyder in 6th and 7th.
And they've had a little bit of help with each other. They've been giving each other the draft. They've been running 56.7s, 56.8s. That's pretty equal or better than what Andrew Sharp and Jeremy Schneider have been running. I don't think they're going to be able to clear these two, but it's going to be close. Coming out of the pits here, Sharp blows by, Schneider blows by, and Farewell and Wildman come out about 3 seconds behind. And Edwards is going to jump him as well. That's a surprise.
Well, he has got the speed, Edwards. I know he's made mistakes so far this race, but he has got the pace. Just over 3 seconds to those Alec Pair for now 4th place. This group further behind is falling up again. Edwards, Farrow, Steer Romeo, all fighting for what will be 4th place. Buddy Chamberlain and Kevin Bergquist will probably fall behind them after their stops. In fact, they're not even that far up the road right now. Alexis Moisan still has to pit, but he is going to be leading by quite some distance at the front here. So those are the positions that are most likely to change before the end here. I think Edwards is going to come under a lot of pressure for this 4th place when this all shakes out for the final 10 minutes.
Farewell, aggressive out of the final corner. You can already see Edwards going for the snake down the front stretch. He knows he isn't really fighting for the podium anymore. He's not even fighting for the top 5. He's just fighting for the highest possible position he can get after that mistake, which is going to be P6 for the moment. And he is getting aggressive as if he's the leader. Farewell and Wildman, they know they've got to be aggressive early. They know Edwards is one of the 2 fastest cars in this race. They can't let him get out of draft range, and they can't let him stop feeling the pressure, because when he's feeling the pressure, he might just make another mistake.
I hope and be there. There is a mistake. Close enough. Wildman certainly is to Farrowell right now. Up over the crest of the hill they go. Steer Romeo looks like he's going to lose the car almost every time he goes over that rise, but he's got it under control, seemingly. And is still running 9th for now. Farrowell under real pressure now, though. Wildman, who's very close through the final turn. Farewell doesn't know whether to take the slipstream of Edwards or take the defensive line. In the end, he's gone to the right-hand side. And he eventually pulls back onto the racing line. And there's the slight problem with this circuit, is that was the biggest braking zone. And even only a tenth back, Wildman still wasn't quite close enough.
Yeah, you need to get an even better run than that. It was incredible down the front straight there. It was like we were watching a baseball game. They were just swinging those cars around. Farewell to the inside, to the outside. You basically need to get to the inside out of the final corner. You need to hope for a little bit of a bobble from the car in front potentially. And that's how you get to the inside in turn one. And that's how you can potentially make a move. It might just happen up over the top of the hill here. Again, Farewell keeps getting wide on the exit of these very high-speed corners. Wildman is faster, but he needs to make sure he can get it done at the right moment. Again, gets a better exit through turn 6. Now through the final corner, hops the curb, almost gets that thing up onto 2 wheels. He's got a great run again, but Farewell's going to be exceptionally defensive once more.
Surely that's not going to be helpful. Up over the curb there at the final curb for Wildman, and once again, can't quite do it. It's allowing Tyler Edwards to get away a little bit as he has to deal with a bit of traffic now. But Farewell defending, and at the moment Wildman not able to get through. I wonder whether it's better off for him though to maybe try somewhere else. Turn 1's not happening for him. Maybe he needs to try to one of these higher speed corners. He's looking up the inside into turn 5, maybe turn 6 as well, final turn as well. Wonder whether it's a better idea to at least attempt something in one of those corners rather than wait for turn 1 and continue to not quite be close enough at every single lap.
I think he's trying, and he's getting runs, but unfortunately they're just so high speed, and there's no real way he can get through in any of them. But he's got a great run out of the final corner here again. There is a gap to the inside now. Farewell's always left 1 car length. Wildman just hasn't gone as aggressive potentially, but now he's finally got the overlap. He's finally to the inside to turn 1. Now he's finally got a chance. Farewell slides a little bit of door contact as well. Wildman muscles his way through, and Romero's going to make some contact as well. It's not over for Farewell.
That was door contact. Castillo Romero really trying to get through there on Jared Farewell, but it wasn't quite happening. Tried to follow Wildman into 7th place, but didn't quite do it. It's allowed Edwards to get away, but finally Farewell is displaced, and he's really struggling at the moment. To be missing quite a few apexes here and there with the pressure behind, and there's another missed one. Turn 6 there. He's not got too wide, which has been a bit of a problem for him on occasion as well, but he is going to be under pressure in towards turn 1. Romeo drives on the grass on his own there. That was bizarre.
Rallycross, a little bit of rallycross, no big deal there. That's not going to help him very much.
Well, it certainly helped Farewell to defend through turn 1 and 2. He does really need to protect that inside line, because I do think that if he had defended from Wildman, he would have stayed in front, because you see the way that the driver on the inside there just commands the line and commands the way that the battle is going to go. On the outside, you really can't do a lot through those opening couple of corners.
Seeing all the final pit stops here. Buddy Chamberlain, Kevin Bergquist, they're finally down the lane. They're finally back in line. And Alexis Moisan, the race leader, after an exceptionally long stint, finally on pit lane. You can see how short this pit stop's going to be. 7.6 seconds. Almost a second quicker than anybody else in the field, other than Chamberlain and Bergquist, who waited that long. It's under control entirely for Moisan right now as he's back onto the racing surface. And it becomes a race for second now for Sharp and Schneider. And it's still a race for 6th here as Francis Castillo almost clipping the grass again out of the final corner. Didn't he see directly what happened to Tyler Edwards? I think he's not operating on fear right now. He's still pushing 100%.
Yeah, it certainly is. Jeremy Snyder is very close to Andrew Sharp, as he said, and this is a battle that may well change hands pretty soon. Not being caught by Tyler Edwards, but with only 7.5 minutes to go, I think it's going to be too little too late for Edwards. Probably 8 laps to go here though. Still quite some distance. This very high speed circuit. Andrew Sharp searching for 2nd place in this championship. Fighting with Rafael Franco for that, who's going to score no points today. Surely that's going to confirm Sharp's place in that position, although Snyder is just over 20 points back from Sharp, just 25 points back, and could do with gaining some of those points with just 4 rounds to go, including this one. And so he looks to the outside in towards turn 1, maybe switching to the inside for turn 2, but that's not going to happen. You stay far too close to the inside there, does Andrew Sharp. And once again has to defend it towards turn 3. Snyder really getting into the mirror of the 24.
Andrew Sharp is driving very smart. He looks sharp like Joe Jackson. It's going very, very well for him. He's parking the bus in the middle of the corner when he needs to. He's not letting Schneider get the runs when he needs to. It's been some fantastic defensive driving so far for Sharp. But Schneider wants to make this a 1-2. It looks a lot like Wildman versus Farewell from a little bit earlier. Is it only a matter of time until Schneider's finally able to make that move? How long can Sharp be strategic and park the bus in the apex here? Out of the final corner, Schneider's able to get a fantastic run again. There's a little bit of oversteer for Sharp as well. It's going to kill his run down the front stretch. He's not going to let Schneider get a lane to the inside, but he's going to have to try it around the outside.
Sharp tried to keep a tight line there to prevent Schneider from getting the slipstream. It doesn't look like it mattered though. Right round the outside for Jeremy Schneider, who gets into second place here in the final moments of this race. Sharp has another look up the inside in towards turn 3. That's not quite going to happen for him, as Tyler Edwards has gone off at turn 1, by the way. That means that the battle for 4th place changes hands all over again, but Jeremy Schneider makes his way around the outside of turn 1 in a fantastic move to get ahead of Andrew Sharp.
1-2 for bump draft to victory for the moment, but Sharp's not giving up. That kind of tells you the effect of the draft, and it kind of tells you that Andrew Sharp might just be very, very good on offense here, even if he was struggling a little bit on defense here. Out of the final corner, Schneider in clean air for the first time, still getting another great run, so he should be in control here. But let's take a look at what happened to Edwards. Wasn't at the final corner this time, it was at turn 1, and just makes one of those classic Lime Rock errors. We've seen it already tonight with a few other drivers, and even with the speed of Tyler Edwards, you are not immune to outbraking yourself a little bit in turn 1.
Yeah, unforced error really. He was on his own. He's now, well, he's still on his own, but he's down in 7th place, rather than 4th at this stage. Greg Wildman has taken over that place, now in 4th position. Farewell has recently been overtaken by Francis Castillo-Romeo, who now finds himself inside the top 5. As we go on board with Sharp, you're right in your assessment of the draft here, Joey. It just seemed to be taking more of effect than maybe we were giving it credit for earlier on in this race.
Oh, Sharp almost gets into the back of Schneider there, into turn 6. He's all over the back of him in the braking zones, just not quite as strong through the high-speed corners. This is an open setup series, so these drivers aren't all driving the same setup. They're all kind of deciding, what do we want? Do we want low downforce to be good on the straights? Do we want high downforce to be better in the braking zones? Do we want medium downforce to be good in the high-speed corners? That's the question that all these drivers had to ask themselves, and how many of them have custom setups that they've built themselves? How many of them have bought a setup off the shelf from a setup shop? It's impossible to tell, but you see this close racing because there are differences. Sharp is faster in half the lap, Schneider's faster in the other half. Unfortunately for Sharp, the faster half for Schneider is the more important half because he's faster on the front stretch.
Still 3.5 minutes to go here for things to change. Schneider still ahead of Andrew Sharp. This is happening now 10 seconds behind Alexis Moisan, who looks to be on his way to his 7th win out of 7. Andrew Sharp on his way to another podium. His 2nd last week, and he clinched 2nd today. Today's 2nd place would be a lot more sweet than last week's, as Schneider pulls so aggressively to the right hand side. He could have been fooled into thinking he was going for a pit stop there. Sharp to the outside in a very similar way that Schneider was a few laps ago to get through. Sharp not able to repeat that move in the same way, so stays behind. Still 3 minutes to go, and so be 4 laps including this one for Sharp to find a way through.
That was a great run for him, but I don't think he has the ability to brake as late as Schneider does. That's the problem, so he's going to need to get even more alongside. This battle's not over, though. Battle for the last spot in the top 10. 2 of the most aggressive drivers in the field. Farewell to the inside, up over the top of the hill. You don't normally want to go side by side through here, but they do. Farewell's through. Francis Castillo gets a little bit out of shape and has to give it up.
And that might well be that battle settled now, with more than half a second between them and only 3 laps to go, including the one they're about to start. Look at these two chasing each other for any whiff of a slipstream down the front straight. Got nowhere near close enough this time. We've got to start working on this move very soon, though. If we're looking at these battles the way that we have been in the entire race, with 3 laps to go, say that maybe Sharp has one more chance, and he's got to sort of set it up over the course of the next 2 laps to have a go in the final moments and see if he can maybe make a last lap pass for this 2nd place.
Well, the critical thing on that last attempt was there was a mistake from Schneider. There was a little bit of a bobble up over the top of the hill, and there's another bobble right there. Almost gets into the grass coming up over turn 5 rather, and that's what allows Sharp to be right up to the back of him through turn 6. Another little hit of the curb for both of them. That kind of evens things out. And then out of the final corner, can Sharp be a little bit tighter than Schneider? Yes, he can. Is Schneider going to go super aggressive and swerve again? He is. And Sharp is going to have to find a way around the outside, but we know that has not been a thing that he's been able to do. Here he comes.
He's going to at least compromise Schneider in towards turn 1, and that sends the Draft to Victory driver a little bit wider. So by turn 2, everything is normal all over again. Sharp has another look at the inside of turn 3. That's going to be an unlikely one. That sends Schneider offline. Not really. Sharp is going to have to close in now very quickly because with less than a minute to go, they're going to start their last lap in a moment. Alexis Moisan, 11.5 seconds up the road. We'll start that for us. With just over 30 seconds remaining, he only has one more lap around Lime Rock Park for his 7th win of the season, or he's already flashing his lights. Don't know if he knows he's on camera, but he knows that another victory awaits him. Further behind, looks like his teammate might well hang on here.
Good exit. That's what he needed to do. 0.3 of a second. He's in control right now. All he needs to do is keep it on the road for the final lap. Don't let Sharp even get a peek at the inside. And you've basically got second and a 1-2 for your team here, but it's the ultimate pressure on the final lap, and Sharp might just try and find another way to get by. He looks to the inside to turn 3. No gap to the inside there.
Loves that move on the way to turn 3. It's not happened for him any of these times though, and now Schneider with that run out of 4 may well have secured himself second position as further at the front Alexis Moisan is making his way through the final couple of corners. He's been dominant so far this season. Some of the races he has been challenged severely, but not today. More than 12 seconds of a win for Alexis Moisan, who takes 7 out of 7, and he takes round 7 here at Lime Rock Park. More than 12 seconds further behind his teammate Jeremy Schneider comes across the line in second. A great drive from him as Andrew Sharp takes second in the driver's standings with that podium as well. Graham Wildman 4th ahead of Jared Farrow, then Francis Castillo-Romeo rounding out the top 6. Tyler Edwards, who was looking the most likely to actually challenge Moisan today, be disappointed to finish down in 7th.
Yeah, but what a competitive race all the way through the field. The fight for second, it looked close for the lead early on before Edwards kind of fell off, and Graham Wildman, the most popular driver in the chat, I think maybe one of the biggest family contingents we've ever seen. I think even the grandma came out, the grandma, if you will. I think she's going to be hoping that Graham might be able to be the driver who steals that victory at Monza next week. And you never know. It's going to get crazy. That could be the week that this Alexis Moisan streak finally ends. Not this week, though.
Nope. It's 12.5 seconds of a win for him over the rest of the field. Jeremy Schneider and Andrew Sharp joining him on the podium, with Graham Wilburn and Jared Farrowell rounding out the top 5. Francis Castillo-Romeo couldn't quite get there ahead of Farrowell. Tyler Edwards, I mentioned, probably disappointed with 7th place to only finish just ahead of Buddy Chamberlain as well. Kevin Bergqvist was the final driver on the lead lap, with Rui Barraza finishing in 10th place, 1 lap down. Also 1 lap down, Matthew Cervic, who finished in 11th. Edward Peltz a couple of laps down in 12th. Patrick Ridley and Cabana got to the line in 13th and 14th, with Michael Lawty quite a few laps down after retiring from that race fairly early on. Well, there is your opening race of the evening. The GR86 series completes here at Lime Rock Park. Let's take a quick chat to 1 or 2 of the drivers after the race, starting with Andrew Sharp, who joins us now very quickly. Andrew, welcome in. To have you with us. 3rd place for you in that one. You tried and tried again to get through on Schneider at the end, but it didn't quite happen. Just tell us a little bit about what trying to make a move was really like around this circuit.
It's pretty miserable. I think the best way is to get that outside on turn 1 like Jeremy was able to get on me. Just got enough run on those fresher, cold tires. Just having a later pit stop to me, so I think that helped him a lot. But yeah, very tight track, but overall really fun race, and great race from Jeremy and Alexis to pull out the double podium for their team.
I've got to say, if I was a driver, then I would be delighted with the fact that the chicanes were taken out of the course, because they make it a bit miserable to drive, but this layout a lot better. Would the chicanes have made overtaking any easier, though, or would it have made no difference at all?
Probably worse if we had the chicanes. It was at least nice to be able to carry some momentum into that first turn, carrying that whole sweeper all the way around. But yeah, just a tough, tight track overall. I knew it was going to be tight, so unfortunately didn't get P2 in quali, and that kind of set the tone for the rest of the race for me.
Well, you're second place in the championship now. Rafa Franco not here today, and he's going to lose out on a lot of points. You did lose a few to Jeremy Snyder, but not enough for you to be caught by him in the near future. What's the aim for the rest of the season now? Is it still to finish in that second position in the standings?
The goal is to get one win. Just got to beat Alexis once. That's the ultimate goal. I think Alexis is pretty locked in for the championship, but if I can pull a win out of him, that would be good.
And is next week going to be the week? I mentioned that round 8 is Monza without the chicanes, and if there was any circuit where Moisan may not win because of pure unpredictability and also kind of silly racing things that can go on, then that is kind of the circuit to do it. Is that the feeling you have? Do you feel like you have the best chance around there?
I tend to do better at the mid-Ohio's and the ones with lots of different turns, but it is kind of a crapshoot, like you're saying, with the draft around Monza. So there is always that chance if I get lucky. At least we'll be close throughout, I think, around there, just due to that draft. So there is a chance. I'm holding out hope for at least one of these tracks remaining to get that win.
Absolutely. Andrew, welcome. Dear me. Congratulations on third place here tonight. And thanks very much for coming to chat to us again. We'll see you next week.
Sounds good. Thank you. Appreciate the streams. RaceSpot does a great job. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Andrew Sharp there, third place here today at Lime Rock Park in the GR86 series. At the moment, nobody else is waiting for a chat with us for the moment.
Where's Graham?
So we'll have to reflect. Yeah, where is he? He's normally here by now. Or, Alexis Moisan or anyone really to have a chat after the race. But anyway, they're not here for the moment. Gives us a bit of time to reflect on that previous one there, and to reflect on Alexis Moisan once again with another huge victory. Andrew Sharp not convinced that next week's going to be the week where he doesn't win. You think that next week is the best chance that anybody's going to have of maybe stopping Alexis Moisan from winning?
I think it is, because if you look at the final 3 races, you've got Monza with no first chicane, you've got Watkins Glen, the Cup layout, and you've got Road America to finish off the season. Watkins Glen Cup and Road America both have very, very long straights, but they're also very similar to places where Moisan has dominantly won, like Road Atlanta, Laguna Seca, so it's going to be tough to beat him there, but I think Monza will be the big chance. So we see here, you don't see the chicanes, but you do know that there's one chicane, which is the second one. There's another chicane at Ascari, and then you've got the exceptionally long front straight. You fly through the first corner, fly through the Curva Grande. It is half oval, half road course. It's fantastic, and I think that's going to be a great race next week, and it could be where somebody breaks that winless streak. And something we didn't talk about so far, Ewan, is next season, the GR86 series going away in the PRL. So if you do want to go out in a high, you've got to get a win here early, because we don't know when the GR86s are going to come back.
Certainly don't. Same time, same place next week on the 14th of August, 8:30. Once again, we'll be live with more Precision Racing League action, as we are 5 nights a week here on RaceSpotTV. But now we head across America a little bit to Road America. It's the LMP3 and GT4 challenge here in the Precision Racing League. 40 minutes worth of a race coming up here in this multi-class race series. A series that has seen so much action so far this season. It's been about survival, a lot of these races so far, Joe. I wonder if Road America is going to be the same, because I've got to say, at the start of the likes of the Watkins Glen race and so on, I thought, yeah, this is going to be a nice multi-class race without too many incidents. And then there were loads of incidents. What are we going to see here at Road America?
I mean, you can never predict in this series. With this combination of cars, they're so equally matched in places and so unequally matched in other places that anything can happen here. But it's an old classic track. Everybody knows Road America. Everybody's got so much experience here that I think we will maybe see a little bit more minimization of mistakes compared to maybe the newer track at Jerez last week, the Nürburgring GP, which isn't new, but also maybe isn't the most popular track in this style of racing. I think it'll be a little bit more sane this week. I'll say that much, especially with the long lap. But I could be very, very wrong, and then all the drivers will be mad at me.
Well, yeah, let's not speak too soon now, but that is kind of our job. Willow Springs coming up the week after as well. That's going to be a little bit different. So is VIR and Aragon as well. Fallen out with VIR, by the way, myself. So I'm glad to be on the sidelines for that one in a couple of weeks' time. Let's have a look at the drivers' standings first of all, though, before we go any further. The GT4 so far, Justin Rem leading here by only 10 points instead of Conor Wagner. That changed hands during the Jerez round last week after Wagner's long stop. Austin Wilkins is still very much lurking there in third place as well. Miguel Ruiz probably too far back in fourth place now, with Nathan Deering running out the top 5, just 1 point in front of William Brennan. Then there is Doug Evans in 7th, then Aaron Create, Travis Chapman and Jeffrey Seabock, the 10 drivers in the GT4 standings. The LMP3 is currently being led by Wayne Castillo, only 18 points ahead of Alec Bergstrom. Still very much up for grabs there, with Mariano Barrios in third place. Walker Caton and Jake Haskell are inside the top 5, with Adam Brockway another couple of points back. Bradley Holly is in 7th place ahead of Joshua Chinsky and Vincent Gelleroux, with Mark Kalin rounding out the top 10 there. In the team standings for the GT4s, Delta Sport are leading ahead of Waterback Racing. Hyperion Racing, KJ Motorsport and J Racing round out the top 5, with Blue McCoy E-Motorsport in 6th. Moore and the Sem Squad Black are just behind in 7th, with Ford Momentum Racing in 8th. Aerotechnics at 9th and Modern Racing Prince GP in 10th position, having not scored points for quite some time in those teams' standings. And finally, in LMP3, the team standings have Moore and the Sem Squad Purple at the front. Walking Pace Racing are in 2nd, with Broken UI Racing in 3rd. Waterback Racing and Evolve Sim Sports running at the top 5, with a mystery team in 6th place. We'll figure out who they are. Precision Racing Esports are in 7th, ahead of ST Esport, YS Sim Sport and Vulture Motorsports to round out the top 10 there in the team standings as well. Pretty much settled in those team standings, in all honesty, in LMP3. But we'll still be accumulating those points over the course of the final 4 rounds, of course. Road America it is then. Iconic sports car racing circuit. Doesn't hold a real long endurance sports car race in America, really. Not these days, anyway. But there is plenty of racing that goes on around here. These cars, you would say, are pretty well suited to it. It's not got quite as many high-speed corners as Jerez, for example, which the LMP3 cars may like a little bit, but this suits both LMP3s and GT4s quite well, this circuit, and the traffic should provide good racing as well as we just begin a 10-minute qualifying session, which is going to be so important as well.
I mean, this track suits everything. I don't know if you're going to agree with me, Ewan, but in terms of road courses in the world entirely, this is number 2 for me. Watkins Glen is still number 1, but Road America number 2. I think the fact that it suits anything, whether it's stock cars, Indy cars, sports cars, any kind of open wheel thing, it's a perfect racetrack. There are no flaws in Road America other than the corner numbers, but other than that, it's perfect.
The fact that this is second on your all-time list for racetracks is absolutely insanity to me, but anyway, I'll respect your opinion.
But what's your number 1? What's your number 1, Ewan? Spill it.
First, probably, to be honest. That's what I... Did you just go air for Bathurst?
I love Bathurst, but I don't think it competes with Road America. It's so... Because you could never put an IndyCar race at Bathurst. You could never have that level of diversity. I think like the multi-use nature of Road America and the fact that it's so fun to drive, it's so difficult to beat. Only Watkins Glen does it for me.
Yeah, in terms of versatility, then there is... it's difficult to look further than Road America, but in terms of don't rate that quite as highly on my sort of things that what makes a racetrack good, quite clearly, because it still wouldn't put it anywhere near the top for me. I find it pretty stale to drive, to be honest, Road America. But
when are they going to come out with Road England, by the way?
Road England? I don't think we've got the space to be building racetracks, to be honest, but like you have in America, like that. So people just complain about the noise. So I don't think that's going to happen. But it's a good idea, isn't it? Road England. Wonder where the name Road America came from, because it is, when you boil it down to that, as you just did, it's a bit odd.
Yeah, I don't know the history, because I know it started as a street circuit in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, where it still is in a slightly different location, but I don't know when they stopped calling it Elkhart Lake Street Circuit and started calling it Road America. I'm gonna have to read the Wikipedia article here. I'm gonna have to check.
Or if you're in YouTube, you can let us know as well. But yeah, we'll find out. Because history of race trucks is really interesting, especially when the name's a bit odd, as it is for Road America, ever so slightly. Qualifying just underway then. The reason we're waffling on is because there's no time to sleep at the moment. It's solo qualifying, by the way, for the second session of the evening. 10 minutes. This means that we basically get to enjoy this qualifying session a little bit more than we used to, because previously we would join this session with about 6 minutes to go. Everybody would be out there, and it would be very, very rare to see any improvements in the top times. So this gives us a little bit more excitement in these sessions, and helps us to see the fastest times actually set rather than already set by the time we actually get into the session as we approach midday. It's 103 degrees Fahrenheit in here, Joey. It's still very much summer, and it's still very much warm out there on the circuit.
It is a hot day in virtual Wisconsin, and the reason that qualifying is closed here, that everybody's not on the same track at the same time, unlike every other road series in the PRL where it is open qualifying and everybody takes to the track at the same time, it's because of the multi-class setup. You don't want the LMP3s and the GT4s on track at the same time. You don't want that sort of traffic to have to deal with in qualifying. It's fine in the race. It's lovely in the race. That's why we love this series. But in terms of qualifying, it's just not quite an option. So this helps us with a little bit of chaos. It saves the chaos for the race.
It does. Adam Brockway with the fastest time so far then. And Castile 28 thousandths behind. It's the first times are completed. It's Turner Stroll who set the fastest time so far in GT4, though that's quickly eclipsed by Justin Rem. And those three leaders are just a class above the rest of the field. Austin Wilkins there jumps into second, and guess who jumps up in there as well? Conor Wagner. It's very clear in GT4 who is the strongest so far this season. It's a battle between Rem, Wagner and Wilkins for the title this season, and what a battle it's going to be.
Yeah, I would like to see Austin Wilkins get a win, because we know how good Justin Ream is. Last week when he won at Jerez, he became the winningest driver in PRL GT4 history with 13 wins. And we know how good Conor Wagner is. He's won in GT4, F3, GT3 on iRacing, competes with, or in the PRL, competes with Delta Sport elsewhere on iRacing. He's a fantastic driver all around. And speaking of drivers fantastic all around, we know Tony Kanon's joined us over the past couple of weeks, and he's back at a track he knows very well. I don't know if TK's ever actually won at Road America, but I assume he has. I assume he's won basically everywhere.
Oh yeah, that's one for the that's one to look up, because I don't know personally. But great to have a Indy 500 winner on the group. I had a bit of a nightmare last week actually at Jerez. Did Kanon, but for a better time of things this time around. There's your current GT4 pole sitter. Ren makes his way around the carousel, which is exceedingly painful in a low downforce car, I've got to be honest. Joey, I'm sorry, but it is. When Castile goes that little bit quicker as well, as Adam Brockway just jumps over him as well. It seems that Brockway and Castile are having a right-on battle at the front of the LMP3 standings and for the overall pole as well. Both of them setting fastest time on that occasion there. They'll have one more chance to try and take pole off of one another, and it could go either way.
Well, Brockway's kind of got an important job here, because he's the only driver on that Moradness M squad that hasn't won a race this season. Wayne Castile has won 5 races this season. The other race that he didn't win was he's won 4 races. Another race was won by Alec Bergstrom. Adam Brockway is the only one without a win this season, so he really wants to get that first one on the board. Right now, it's advantage him in that 42 for the moment, but there's still time for one more lap for everybody here, as we see the 43 of Ryan Kings across the line. I don't think that lap time counted.
Doesn't look like it. That's the slides to a stop on the front straight. This funky BMW makes its way over the line. It's unfortunately not been a particularly popular car to choose this season. Travis Chapman has been fairly regularly the highest placed of the BMWs. It's almost entirely down to the RaceSpot sticker as he's put on the side. It's probably not, but it is helping as we like to take. See ones of that size that are helping him around at the moment. Also got race box on there. Be quite a some divisive opinions on that livery, I would argue, with the blue and green either clashing horrendously or doing wonders for the eyeballs. It depends on who you ask.
It looks delicious. It looks like a candy wrapper. It looks like it would be a delicious fruity candy packed in there. I'm here for it. And the Race Spot logo does help a lot. That's at least 5/10.
Well, I agree, by the way, but I know plenty of people who would not, unfortunately, agree at all on that. So yeah, we'll have to keep that one to ourselves. But don't mind it at all there. But Travis Chapman still gets set time, by the way, and that's not going to be one. He's just run out a little bit wide down the bottom of the hill there at turn 8, so there could be a bit of an issue in terms of setting a time now at all for Travis Chapman. But let's wait and see on that one. It looks like Adam Brockway might well just see this one out. A 10.5 he's got over Wayne Castile, who is just ahead of his championship rival Alec Bergstrom. And these races are getting pretty important for those two now because they're only separated by 18 points. And I think if Bergstrom were to lose points at this stage to Castile, that title would really begin to start slipping away from him.
And this has been a fantastic qualifying session because Brockway put it on pole initially, then Castile went faster than him. Brockway got it back, Castile went faster and got pole again, and Brockway fought back again. So it is pretty clear that the track is getting a little bit better over the course of these runs, and Adam Brockway just has that little bit more speed than his teammate Wayne Castile. He could be the top dog in that Moradness M squad here. Finally parks it after the run, ahead of one of his teammates, ahead of another of his teammates. It's a 1-2-3 for that team. And then P4, Tony Kanaan, the guy who was invited by that team. So it might as well be a 1-2-3-4.
Well, absolutely. It's working out all right for him at the moment. All of them within a second of each other. Also with Jerry Haynes as well, who's not involved, but he's also running well. Mark Kalin makes his way around Canada corner right now. The time ticking away from him also. The checker flag will wave before he gets the chance to come across the line again. So that is your qualifying here at Road America, and we will bring you through this quite simply huge grid ahead of another LMP3 GT4 race this evening. It's Adam Brockway and Wayne Castile on the front, with Alec Bergstrom and Tony Kanaan on the second row. Joey Haynes and Ozzy Milway and teammates also sharing row 3 in a nice bit of symmetry inside the top 6 for everybody. At 7th place will be Austin Lawrence with Joshua Chinsky, Darian Roy and Jake Haskell will round out the top 10. Michael Tarafino and Bradley Holly just miss out there by a 10th or 2. 13th place was Mark Kalin there for an LMP3, just ahead of Justin Rame, who was the first of the GT4s. Not far in front of Austin Wilkins, Conor Wagner there as well. Those 3 championship contenders right with one another once again. Turner Stroll was with Floyd Kerr. They'll be on row 9 overall, with Nathan Deering and Miguel Ruiz rounding out the top 20 overall. John Duong and Aaron Create on the next row, with Matt Brewer and Jeff Evans rounding out row 12. Sharing row 13 will be Nicholas Schwartz and William Brennan, with Travis Chapman, the first of the BMWs, there in 27th. Carl Bishop in the Porsche at 28th, with Douglas Curry and Jared DePlue rounding out the top 30 overall. 31st will be Nicholas Johnson, with Jeffrey Seabuck there, as well as the drivers who didn't set a time also come through. Vincent Jenner and Ryan Kings in the LMP3s, with Doug Evans and Will Jennings as well in the GT4s. Just less than 40 on the grid here for this one, which is a little bit lower than some of the numbers we've seen so far this season, but it's only understandable as this season rumbles on, as the drivers get themselves lined up on the front straight. We are going to have a full formation lap by the looks of things, so plenty of time to run through the grid here, and 40 minutes on the clock as well. It's, as you say, Joey, the teammates at the front, bizarre bit of symmetry on the first 2 rows, and then row 3 as well with Joey Haynes and Ozzy Milway. But based on qualifying, it seems that it's going to be between Adam Brockway and Wayne Castile, and if anybody else gets involved, then it'll be an absolute bonus for them.
Never know. We've seen lots of crazy races this season. Remember back to Motorsport a couple of weeks ago when it seemed like every single contender in LMP3 got taken out somehow, and eventually Wayne Castile circled around to win the race anyway. So anything can happen here. There could very well be somebody who breaks up that armada up front. Could it be Tony Kanaan? By the way, I did just read through that Wikipedia article while you were looking through the grid. I don't believe Tony Kanaan has ever won at Road America, so put this one in the old trophy cabinet if Tony Kanaan can get it done. PRL win at Road America. Might as well. I think Evolve SimSport might want to take it away from all of them, though.
Absolutely. He's raced here plenty of times. I can see upwards of 10 results for him, but never a win. Could see a second place back in 2016? Yes. So that's the closest he ever got. For whatever reason, though, Joe, you might have to inform me a little bit if you know the reason. For whatever reason, IndyCar just didn't race at Road America for like over a decade in there. So don't know what that was all about, but clearly this circuit was not fancied by IndyCar for quite some time.
It was one of the most unfortunate things ever because it's an old classic, fantastic races in the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, and then, or the early 2000s at the very least, and then for some reason they just decided to forget Road America existed. They just let sports cars and NASCAR take this place on, and then finally they kind of came to their senses and put this track back on the IndyCar calendar in 2016, and the rest is history. I'm very glad we went back. I do remember that 2016 race. That was a pretty good race. I remember that Tony's teammate Scott Dixon kind of had an engine failure, kind of opened things up for somebody else to win. Thought it was a pretty great race, and it's certainly stayed its welcome as one of the best racetracks in the world for anything, any type of car.
Good memory, because I think I've probably watched that as well, but I've forgotten all details of the race entirely, so well done on that. Circuit was also included twice, by the way, on the IndyCar calendar in a COVID year, I'm presuming. It's a COVID measure, it's a double weekend. Very much fancied these days by lots of different series, and that's what we're hoping for here tonight, Joey. It's LMP3 and GT4. This track is going to need to show its colours as being versatile for multi-class racing here, because we know that these LMP3s aren't so easy to drive, and the interaction between them and the GT4 sometimes is problematic, and in some of the races this season there have been a lot of incidents.
There's been a lot of arguments, a lot of drama at times, and that's just because these cars are evenly matched in some very inconvenient places. Through the corners, the LMP3s do kind of have an advantage. They are lighter, they're a lot lighter, they have more downforce. But on the straights, those GT4s are pretty quick, and both are very, very similar in some inconvenient places. And when you're lapping the GT4s, that can lead to some big trouble here. But it's a long lap. I don't think these LMP3s are going to run into GT4 traffic for a little while, so it should be a somewhat calm start to the race. But then once they start to reach that traffic, that's when things all start to go crazy.
Yeah, that's why Rim and Wilkins are keeping the field quite close here together as well. Sometimes you get a really big class split, which means that you embark on traffic very, very quickly, but the GT4s are making sure that happens as little as possible over the course of the 40 minutes here by keeping things quite close through the opening section. Formation lap's about to draw to a close. Adam Brockway will be in control of the field very soon. Wayne Castile will try and respond. Formation lap draws to a close. We are underway. Brockway already single file with Castile and Bergstrom in towards turn one. Already absolutely single file. No moves made other than for Bergstrom to just defend from Tony Kanaan a little bit. It's single file though for the leaders in LMP3 through turn one. Possibly a sensible choice really, if indeed the less exciting one for those leaders. Brockway converts that pole position to an early lead.
Not necessarily thinking about the team game right now, but they are very smartly giving each other a little bit of room here. Here's the GT4s firing it into turn 3 for the first time. Justin Ream a little bit extending the track a little bit off of turn 3. No big deal for him. No harm, no foul. He's going to try and pull away from Connor Wagner as quick as he can.
Running towards turn 5, where we're going to see a lot of the action so far today. Such a difficult braking zone. Downhill and slightly turning to the left on the way in. You also have to make your moves there though as well. It's a good overtaking opportunity. A big challenge down there later on, but so far, especially in LMP3, it's absolutely single file. Justin Weber holds on to the lead then. GT4 with Conor Wagner now in second place. Wilkins drops to third. And Schroll stays in that fourth position, but it's expected to be between those three again. If Justin Red can extend that championship lead with a win here in that GT4 category.
In kind of the back of the LMP3 train here, that's Michael Terrafino in another purple LMP3. Not one of the more Adness drivers, though, just kind of coincidentally in another purple LMP3 for Broken UI Racing. Had a decent start, riding in the top 10 here. Driver who's been very, very successful in the GT3 Fix series in the PRL, trying something new this season, getting some prototype experience, and currently sitting in the top 10.
The final corner for the leaders. Gaps already at the front, quite big at this stage in the race. 6/10 of a second between 1 and 2 is normal, but Alec Bergstrom already more than a second behind. Championship leader Wayne Castile at the front. They'll be single filing towards turn 1 as well. LMP3's enjoying this first corner, especially with the downforce that they have. A lot more enjoyable than the GT4s, that's for sure. As Darian Roy has a look at Joshua Chinsky on the downhill run towards turn 4. That was a move, but this is further on back. This is Travis Chapman in the BMW. The height permitted. The right-hander, unfortunately, just gets it slightly wrong. And does well to save it there, because once things start to go wrong, it's very easy to end up in a big crash.
It was a good save, kept the wheel pointed straight, no harm, no foul there, but here we go, Darian Roy. I don't know if it's Darian Roy, because he is a French-Canadian. I'm going to have to ask the PRE guys about that, but he thinks about going to the inside of Chinsky. No place to do it there. Chinsky's going to hang on down the hill. Darian's getting aggressive. He knows track position's going to be important here soon, but not able to make the move at turn 5 there, and he's going to hope that at the next long straight he gets another shot. As there goes, I think, Austin Wilkins up to second.
He's back in second place again, he is. So, I think Wagner's made a mistake there, because look at the gap to Rame. Either there was a big battle for that second position, or Wagner made a mistake, because all of a sudden the Porsche is quite far out in the lead, and Wilkins is suddenly in second place with everybody behind second, really quite close together. So I wonder whether there's been some sort of altercation down here for second place. But one thing is clear, it's very good news for the driver of the Porsche, who leads now by quite some distance.
I think Chinsky's in trouble a little bit further ahead. We'll see if we get onto the scene of that in a moment. Can't see him in the background, but he has fallen to the back of this train here, so I have a feeling Canada Corner may have had something to do with it, maybe a little bit too late in the brakes, but either way, Chinsky's in bad luck, and Ryan King throws it off the road out of the final corner.
Saves it just about, but you're right, Chinsky has been in trouble. He's in the pit lane now. He's down towards Canada Corner, where he just got things wrong. He got out wide, he got to the gravel, and nosed it into the wall as well. That will be a bit of damage, and, well, everyone does quite well to avoid him there in the end, because it's fairly narrow on the exit of Canada Corner as well.
And unfortunately, with the new damage model on these LMP3s, you are not going to get away with heavy contact like that. You wouldn't get away with it on the old damage model either, but either way, bad luck there for him. The two teammates very close together up front, Brockway and Castile, both of them as wide as can be in the braking zone at turn 5. Just extending every single inch of this track that the track has given them. And it's going to be close here for quite a while. But let's see what happened to Ryan Kings out of the final corner. Just typical Road America mistake, I think. A little bit too much speed into the final corner. There's a little bit of a wiggle and a little bit of grass.
I thought he was just getting underpowered through early, but in fact he had a real wheel on the brake. Did well to save it on the exit of the turn as well. Just behind. Came to the pit lane, Joshua Chinsky, who we recently saw into the wall, of course. Further back, GT4 battles continue on. One for second place. Wilkins still leads Wagner, then Turner Strong at that 4th place. GT4's getting very close to his fellow Mercedes. I believe they are indeed on the same team. Pretty clear to see. Pretty difficult to tell them apart, in fact, at the moment. But for either of these two to get on the podium, I think will be a big ask compared to the way, or given the way that this season has gone so far. It's been all about the top 3. Rame, Wilkins and Wagner, and for either Schroll or Kerr to get on the podium would be a big ask.
And never count out Floyd Kerr, though, because I remember many seasons ago in GT3 Fixed, Floyd Kerr, one of the most spectacular finishes ever in the PRL. If you want to go back after this race and watch it, I think it was season 4 of 2022, where Floyd Kerr came into the final corner versus Andrew Rasmussen, won it in a fantastic last lap pass, one of the best races ever. So he's got experience here, And this could very well be the place where Floyd Kerr finally gets that podium after starting the season a little bit late. This is actually his first race of the season.
Yes, indeed. Down towards turn 5. Again, for the LMP3s. Very single file for the moment. I'm astonished with the way that this race has started. We thought that we were going to get a little bit more in terms of side-by-side than this. I guess with the... Well, I don't want to say everyone's waiting for the traffic, because that's not really a thing that you feel while you're in the race, but I just think that that's going to be what it takes when Kerr gets again to his teammate, not close enough in towards turn 1. It's going to have to be traffic that splits this apart, because both LMP3 and GT4 right now is seeing very little in the way of overtaking.
Well, it's going to take about 8 laps for them to catch traffic, because the pace difference is about 17 seconds. Lap times are almost exactly 2 minutes for the LMP3s, so do the math, that's about 8 laps. We've completed 4 laps now, or at least we will complete 4 laps when Brockway gets to the line, so give it 4 more laps, and then we'll start getting a little bit crazy, I think, and these will be 2 of the first ones they catch. It's Doug Evans in that traditional highlighter green, or that familiar highlighter green that he always runs in all his cars, up against Jeffrey Seebach here. Great exit out of turn 3, down the back straight, or down the middle straight, I guess we can say, to turn 5. That Mercedes doing very good things for Doug Evans. Let's see if he goes for it into turn 5. Takes a peek to the inside of Seebach, but doesn't go for it.
That's been the story of this race so far. There's been a lot of waiting around for later on in the race. Especially expecting something down in towards turn 5, because it's a tricky braking zone down there, very long braking zone, especially in the GT4s, and that's where you see the opportunity, but clearly drivers just not wanting to go for it for the moment. So with nearly 9 minutes gone, the back end of the GT4 field are still only 100 seconds off the leaders, which still gives them another 20 seconds to gain. As you said earlier, Joey, there's really not going to be very many chances to lap the GT4s in this race because of the length of the circuit. It takes a very long time to get around and actually do it.
And you might get 2 chances, so you got to take advantage of that when you can. Also, do have to give credit to Doug Evans there, out of turn 8, around the outside of the carousel. Fantastic move for him to get by Jeffrey Seebach there. He's going to be looking at 5 seconds up ahead, though, if he wants to catch Will Jennings, who's the next car on his list. But he's going to be waiting in a couple laps for that traffic to start coming through. That's when I think he's going to be thinking about moving his way forward, because for now he's probably in the place he should be after getting by Jeffrey Seebach, and anything else may just be a bonus, or we may be undercounting Doug Evans. He may have more in the tank.
Ryan Kings also comes into the pit lane, by the way, and drops down the left-hand side of the screen, allowing us to see a few more GT4 drivers who are currently getting lost down the bottom there. So they are, well, obviously behind the LMP3s in the overall standings for the moment. Over the line again for leaders. Adam Brockway still leads by 8 tenths of a second, and Wayne Castile is in that second position, further behind. Alec Bergstrom struggling to keep pace with these guys, but there's the first bit of traffic. Wayne Castile sets the fastest lap of the race, and they wonder whether he's timing this run to absolute perfection, because with 10 minutes gone, traffic is going to be now a factor. The gap's now less than a second for the first time in a little while. Castile has the fastest lap. He's closing in on Brockway just in time for that traffic to either separate them even further or really close them in.
It's a purple car. It's Nick Johnson, not a teammate of these guys though, so he's not gonna give him any special treatment, but he is gonna get out of the way here, let Brockway by, let Castile by, and let Bergstrom by, or at least they're gonna get by. So some tough stuff there. First bit of traffic. Back to Doug Evans here. I actually undersold Doug Evans. You know that meme where it's Shaq saying, "I apologize, I wasn't familiar with your game"? I gotta say that to Doug Evans here, because he was half a second faster than Will Jennings on that previous lap. It might be a 3.5 second gap up to him right now, but give Doug Evans 7 laps and he is flying, at least for his position in the field.
Based on that form, that's the way that it will go. Yeah, it does seem to be grown to 4 seconds actually, but you never know what's going to happen in traffic here either, but certainly coming down that gap between those two. Brockway makes his way around the kick just in the background there. The gap extends to 1.2, 1.3 seconds though. Castile, I think, got caught up and one of the GT4s through that kink there, although now it would be Brockway's turn into Canada corner to be slowed down by one of the GT4s. But because it's taken them quite a long time to get there, the field is actually a bit more spread out than it would be otherwise in the first pass through traffic. In some of the races so far this season, we've seen everybody very, very close together by the time the LMP3s have their first trip through traffic, but that's not really the case at Road America. They've had 10 minutes to split apart, and they really have at the back.
Gone very, very well for Adam Brockway there. He's expanded that gap by almost half a second, getting through Seebach and Evans and a few others. And poor old Alec Bergstrom, who has won this season, has not quite had the luck. He's still stuck in traffic. Doug Evans throws it off the road in turn 1. That's going to be a little bit scary for Bergstrom coming through. He gets by Seebach, and here's Tony Kanaan on the scene. Craziness. It's already kicking off here. Ozzie Milwane gets by as well.
Well, that could have been a lot worse for a number of drivers. But in the end, the LMP3s at least have stayed exactly where they are. Ozzie Milwane have closed in on Tony Kanaan maybe a little bit as a result. Joey Haynes also under pressure from Austin Lawrence, by the way. They also just make their way through there. But could have been a lot worse for almost everybody involved. Still, one driver out of this race as things stand, and it's Ryan Kings, who we saw earlier on. Joshua Chinsky has come back out of the pit lane again after his problems earlier on in the race, and that's good to see, as Bergstrom has to defend from Tony Kanaan a little bit down in towards turn 9. Bergstrom is under a lot of pressure, needs to stay close to Castile, of course, because he's only 18 points behind in the championship, needs to gain points and can't really afford to lose this position to Tony Kanaan.
25 Douglas Corey up there. Another move to get past him. Bergstrom clears him. Kanaan clears him. Corey's going to throw it off the road himself there. Oh, and Corey's going to lose it. Corey clips the grass right in front of some traffic. I think everybody made it through, but that was dicey stuff right as LMP3's got through at the kink, and Corey loses it on his own.
That was very, very nerve-wracking indeed for everybody. Corey just getting wide into the kink there and into the wall as well. Well, could have caused chaos there. Down into the final corner for Joey Haynes as he defends from Austin Lawrence. Now the battles are starting to pick up as a result of traffic. Lawrence gets a better exit, and there'll be pretty much a drag race over the line here, although it seems that with the slipstream of his teammate Joey Haynes will just win that battle.
And we do have to remember this is an open setup series as well, so some drivers, some cars maybe a little bit slipperier in the straight lines, some a little bit healthier in that top speed. And Haynes is going to hang on. You also saw, if you were watching the ticker, Castile and Brockway have been getting exceptionally close through the traffic. Castile eventually had to slot back in line, and he's about half a second back from the leader now. But this battle rages on. Lawrence almost 3 wide past Chapman. He gets to the inside down the middle straight.
There's going to be traffic involved here as well. Let's see if Lawrence has got the legs this time. Towards turn 5. He is late on the brakes. Tricky braking zone, as I mentioned earlier, and it's a good run inside from Joey Haynes as Ozzie Milwane gets it wrong in front. They both gain a place now. Lawrence into the top 5. As Adam Brockway also off the road by the looks of things. Wayne Castile takes the lead. Now the real race begins. The traffic is upon us, and the lead has changed hands. Wayne Castile by some distance ahead of Alec Bergstrom and Adam Brockway, who are now absolutely together.
Traffic drama. This is the heart of the GT4 field that I think Castile and Brockway caught, but what happened to Brockway? We're going to have to catch a replay when we can. I have to imagine it's similar to what we're seeing here with the likes of Joey Haynes having to go around the outside of the carousel. All the GT4s are in their own race. They don't need to play respectful with the LMP3s. They're running their own race. It's up to the prototypes to pass safely, and clearly the prototype of Adam Brockway had a tough time of doing that. Let's see what happened. Coming down maybe into turn 5. It's after this. This is Ozzie Milwane. I don't think the GT4 was involved in this. I think this was a single car spin. It was coming out of the 34.
Oh yeah, that was interesting. There'd be a debate about that one, about whether the prototype or GT4 was in the wrong there. It was maybe a bit of an ambitious dive from Milwane, and he paid the price in the end for it, dropping back. Darren Roy also, I think, has been off at Canada corner, and Mark Caylin and Ozzie Milwane have caught up as a result. We're almost it's not Canada corner, it's the final turn with 3 wide down the home straight as a result, though. Milwayne is going to make up 2 of those places that he lost almost immediately there.
Big move for Milwayne, championship contender in the F3 series in the PRL last season, and clearly showing that prowess again. Unfortunately for him, he's kind of running into the same cars he ran into earlier before he spun. It was the 34 of former Supreme Court Justice William Brennan that he got into, and now he does finally get by him with a little bit less trouble there. Here's Douglas Corey through the kink. This was a very scary moment as he kind of slots his way through some of the LMP3 traffic. He's back on pit lane with heavy damage, and very luckily didn't collect anybody there.
Yeah, very luckily, as we, well, we'll be lucky to get away with this one as well. Down in towards turn 5, lock up from Bonsa Generu, I think it was, in the background. Ozzy Milwayne has dropped back again here. Something has gone on while we were replay there. And this is what happened to Darian Roy earlier. Up towards the penultimate turn, gets through on another one of the GT4s, all right. Then he's on the outside. Oh dear. Well, that was a little bit clumsy, I've got to say, from the GT car, not really realising that Darian Roy was on the outside there.
Yeah, that's a difficult move. You always take the risk when you're a prototype going around the outside of a corner like that, but he was fully alongside. He was deserved the room, and unfortunately just 2 cars tripping over each other. I'm still curious what happened to Adam Brockway. I hope we'll get a replay of that when we can, but everything is still kicking off here. We don't have time to look away. They're side by side again down the back straight with Bradley Holly and Darian Roy.
Milwayne with no speed out of the kick there. It's Bradley Holly who will get up into 8th place. Darian Roy having to give that one over, although he'll try and come back again. Not sure whether he managed that or not. This is further back again. Nick Haskell on his own here entirely. And, oh, this is a bit... he gets in the grass on the... Oh dear, the outside of the carousel. That's going to be the end of his day, surely, because that's huge damage.
That became an LMP4 at that point, I think. That thing was destroyed, and Connor Wagner was the car right in front of him, who's going to be absolutely terrified after that, because he almost got turned into concrete by that. So we're in the difficult part of this race. We're in the very scary part of this race. We're gonna have a little bit of calm, I think, for the next couple of laps. Once all of the GT4 traffic is cleared, the LMP3s can take a breath again. But don't take a breath for too long, because you're going to have to deal with all of this again in about 8 or 7 laps time.
It's still not quite halfway in this race. We're just over 20 minutes remaining in this one. As it's down the inside from Vincent Generu in towards turn 5. Milwayne able to hold on around the outside there. Still 11 LMP3s running, which haven't been in the pit lane yet. And that basically shows the amount of cars that have remained undamaged so far. But finally, after this run of traffic, things have spread out even further. It was a bit of a waiting period early on in this race, but the action eventually did come. It eventually did kick off, and now it's really changed the front of this race. Wayne Castile now leads by nearly 5 seconds ahead of Adam Brockway, who previously was leading fairly comfortably.
It was very comfortable, and the GT4 traffic giveth, the GT4 traffic taketh away. We've seen Wayne Castile be the beneficiary at times this season. We've seen him be the guy who got taken away, but let's see what happened here. We do have it reeled up. Adam Brockway in the 42 coming up to those Hyperion Racing cars. It's Floyd Kerr and Turner Schroll, but they weren't related at all. There was no traffic for Adam Brockway. He just gets a little bit of oversteer through turn 6 and throws it off the road.
He's going to be very disappointed with himself there, because, as you say, no traffic involved there at all. An unforced error, really, by himself. He's handed the lead over to Castile, and he's handed him a big lead as well at that. Big margin. And be very, very disappointed with that, as Generu and Ozzy Milwayne exchange places. Milwayne loses out there on his top 10. For the back, Will Jennings here trying to move on. I think it's Douglas Curry just up in front of him. In towards Canada corner. BMW swings around the outside and will hold on to that position. So the GT4 seems to have been left a little bit closer to one another than maybe the LMP3s have been after this opening 20 minutes of the race.
We got some pit stops kicking off already. Miguel Ruiz is in, Nicholas Schwartz is in. So some strategery going on already, as we're already past halfway in the race. 22 minutes have flown by. You see Travis Chapman coming in, John Duong is in as well. It's pit stop time.
It is. over the start-finish line for these two. Jennings down the inside of Curry in towards turn 1. It's a tentative move, relatively. The two of them not really wanting to make contact, and Jennings gets through. That's for 9th place now in GT4, but can't really blame these drivers now for wanting to split this race in half. If I was one of the LMP3s, though, I would wait just up until I catch the back of the GT4s all over again and then pit, just to try and minimise the amount of time you want to spend in traffic. And at a circuit of this length, time you spend in traffic just a little bit. At some of the shorter circuits, like at Mossport that we had not so long ago, for example, in Long Beach, it was pretty much impossible to minimise your time in traffic at all. But around here, you certainly can in LMP3, and I'm just wondering whether anyone's going to attempt to do that, at the very least, in this race.
Not sure we've got a what-a-back battle here. Well, we don't anymore. Right as we come up to the battle, Mark Kalin says, I don't want to fight with you, Bradley Holly. I want to come down pit lane and start my own strategy game here. Bradley Holly left out on track here. Him and Mark Kalin, both NASCAR regulars in the PRL. Many, many wins for Bradley Holly. Actually, the winningest driver in the PRL, for that matter, of anybody. So trying some alternate things here in the LMP3s this season. Good to see that. Good to see former Supreme Court Justice William Brennan himself here, still in his familiar GT4. Third of the Hyperion racing cars, and he's got 2 of his teammates right ahead of him. Some good coverage there for Hyperion. All 3 of their cars doing pretty well.
Lots of GT4s in here, by the way. I wonder whether they're reaching their limit in terms of fuel at this circuit. Seems that they are, because everybody's in here. Turner Stroll, Nathan Deering leading these guys in. And Matt Brewer. Turner Stroll already in. Oh dear, this is aggressive between Bradley Holly and Darian Roy. That's Holly in the purple car making his way down the inside and through another place. Darian Roy demoted another place. No, that can't be correct, can it? So one of the other battles a little bit further down than that. Not entirely sure, to be honest with you. That may have been an unlapping for somebody, but they're going in. GT4 leaders making their way off pit lane. Conor Wagner's stopped a bit shorter than Austin Wilkinson, so he's out in 2nd place, but Justin Rem seems almost uncatchable here. Over 8 seconds in the lead for him.
It is a fantastic day for Justin Ream so far. 9 seconds almost over Conor Wagner, and a shorter pit stop for good measure. But this Roy Holly battle has been absolutely insane. Every lap they're switching places. They are technically 2 Precision Racing esports drivers. Holly racing for Whataback in this series, but both drivers race for the Precision Racing League's esports squad at times, so they know each other and giving each other all sorts of respect in an absolutely fantastic race. I think we'll see Holly come down here. Kings follows him in, and Bergstrom, Kanan, and Lawrence further up in the field are in as well. It's a wider pit window than I expected, but it's only a matter of time until everybody else comes in.
It is, as the clouds just roll over the circuit. No precipitation, but it's on the way. In terms of the scale of iRacing, anyway. Just shows how that would affect these kind of races. And indeed, it's very sunny on the other side of the circuit here as well, as you can see. So that will be a bit of a shock to the system as well. So I'm trying to work out what's going on in this battle here, because there seems to be cars on different laps overtaking one another, and some of them are fighting, but none of these gaps are very small in terms of your intervals at the moment. Making life very difficult in terms of working out who's fighting with who. So that's Bunch on General in 10th place, although no, it's not. He's in the pit lane at the moment, according to my target screen, so not entirely sure.
They always love to confuse us at Road America. They get the corner numbers wrong. They say that turn 3 is turn 3 when it should be turn 2, and now you got the magic of sim racing sometimes.
Wait, but who is he battling with here? Because he's not within a second of anyone. I don't know who this is.
I feel like this is this Vincent Generou or is this Ryan Kings? I don't know, but he's going to get to the inside of one of the Evolve Sim Sport drivers either way into turn 1. Ozzy Milwane is on pit lane, so it's not him. Joey Haynes is on track right now.
Can't be Joey Haynes, because he's a minute ahead of Mr. Generou. So I've got no idea, to be honest.
I am so confused. It's not no, it's not Jake Haskell, because Jake Haskell's on pit lane as well.
Well, This is just a mystery at the moment, I've got to say. According to my timing screen, only one of the gaps is smaller than a second, and it is Generou, but it's not with one of the Evolved SimSport cars, it's with Bradley Holly. I don't know where that may be. Anyway, the leaders are in. We'll divert away from that because I cannot work out for the life of me what that's all about. Wayne Castillo then making his way out of the pit lane, and he's still ahead of Adam Brockway, who we pleased to learn. It was very short actually as well, by the looks of things. He's made good use of that. 12.8 seconds, one of the shorter ones compared to some of the others. And Brockway has been caught a little bit by Bergstrom there, so we could get a fight for second place. And that definitely is the fight for second place. I know that for 100%. Bergstrom needs these points, of course. And he'll want to get through on Brockway as quickly as possible.
You know, the two Bs, Brockway and Bergstrom, long-time drivers in the PRL. We've seen them in many, many series. GT4, GT3, F3. Always showing their skill with some other teams in the past, but now with this Moradness squad, 1, 2, 3 looks absolutely phenomenal for them. And then Tony Kanaan in fourth, who kind of got the invite from Wayne Castile to join this series. It's a fantastic day for that Moradness squad. Daniel Morad himself, I believe, may be joining the fray in the PRL in the near future in one of the series. Not sure which one he's going to opt for, but Moradness, a sponsor of the PRL, 10% discount code Precision10 up there in the top left or the top right of your screen. Doing a lot to support this series, and they're getting a lot for their money with a 1, 2, 3 right now.
Hoping that Daniel Morad doesn't choose to race in the GT3s, because that'll be another person on behind tomorrow night. But we'll wait and see on that one. He does enough driving in GT3s and do something else.
He does.
So I can have that extra position.
I don't know what you would be to him. You'd be like the LMP3 to his GT4, I think. You'd be scaring him.
Well, yeah, I might beat him if I was in a higher class car, but I think that's the only situation in which I would be able to beat him. This is Joey Haynes and Austin Lawrence, by the way, having a good battle for 5th place. It's just about in front of Lawrence as we hang off the side of the front left of Austin Lawrence's car. This is a lively fight between the two of them, and the race finally starting to liven up in terms of battles now, because everybody knows that the positions around them are the ones that they're likely to be able to grab by the end of this race, and so they're fighting just that little bit hard now that they know where they stand in this race.
The top 5 will be pretty good for Austin Lawrence. I don't believe he's had many of those so far this season. In fact, he has not had a single one so far this season. Best result was in week 1, and that was P6, so going for his best result if he can get by Joey Haynes here. GT4 traffic, or at least LMP3 is making their way through GT4 traffic again. I think that's Wayne Castile who just cleared the majority of them, and then Adam Brockway's got to come through and get by all these guys. It's worked by beautifully for Wayne Castile with a 4-second lead. I think that's only going to expand as Brockway's got to get through all of these cars now.
He certainly does. Just as you said that, by the way, Joey, Daniel Morad letting us know that, or apologising for his absence here this evening, which makes me think that he's going to race on Monday nights at some point. Apparently he's been to Road America today. Not entirely
I mean,
sure
how relevant?
Well, how very relevant. But yes, unfortunately not able to race tonight. So hopefully we'll see him in the future. In terms of real life drivers, we do have Tony Kanaan here, by the way, because you're just joining us. It's very close to Alec Bergstrom in this fight for the podium right now, and it's a very close one. Adam Brockway currently holds second place. Then it's Bergstrom and Tony Kanaan, who's looking for that position, and it's close battling as well. Really close on the way out of the king, because they both had to slow down there for the GT4s through that high-speed corner. Now into Canada corner. It's late braking on the outside for Kanaan. They're going to remain side by side through the final couple of corners. Penultimate turn, he'll have the inside, and Tony Kanaan will be up onto the podium.
Big move there through the Bill Mitchell bend for TK through the final corner. Now he's got nobody in front of him, and he's a little bit not wide at all. Perfectly executed there. And now Alec Bergstrom goes on offense. He's in the draft of that black Texaco car into turn 1. I don't think he's going to be close enough to have a shot, but the draft is very, very effective, and he's going to prove me wrong. He's got a fantastic run down the front straight. Bergstrom to the inside, Kanaan on the outside. Bergstrom repays the favor and gets P3 back, but TK is going to go for the switchback.
Yes, and I wonder whether we've just seen the first signs of maybe a setup difference between those two. Has Bergstrom just trimmed out a bit of that downforce? Maybe he has. He's gone wide in towards turn 3, just a bit deep into the corner. And Tony Kanaan is going to waltz on through into third place now. I wonder whether Bergstrom was just that little bit faster in the straight line but not quite as agile in the corners as a result of trimming that car out maybe a little bit more than Kanada's done.
It might just be the case. I think he might be able to fight back here, though, because you see some lap traffic coming up. Some of the Hyperion cars, or basically all of the Hyperion cars, coming up there in a matter of moments. Joey Haynes and Austin Lawrence have to deal with some traffic again here. Remember, I said Austin Lawrence hasn't had a top 5 this season. He is desperate for a top 5 here. If he can get by Joey Haynes through one of the Hyperion cars, I believe that's Floyd Kerr. Next up on their list, Turner Stroll, but Lawrence gets turned around.
Oh! Big crash. And big contenders turned around in it as well. Austin Lawrence's car is toast there. The front left is completely gone. And unfortunately for one of the Mercedes as well. Matt Brewer. Although I don't want to go too early on that because all of their cars look identical. But I think you're right. He was running, contesting for a top 5 position. 2 pretty big contenders for those top 5 positions in those 2 categories. 2 different categories caught up in that one. We'll have another look at it now. With Joey Haynes versus Austin Lawrence. Haynes got to the outside here through the right-hander. Lawrence did as well. It's at turn 7. Going to see everybody run out of road here, really. I think Lawrence gives enough room here, but just doesn't receive that, and it's difficult to do as well when you're in a GT4. They don't have as much downforce, of course. Brewer gets into the side of Lawrence, and they're both off into the wall very, very quickly indeed.
And very, very hard. That was actually Brewer and Aaron Create fighting there, so a lot of Hyperion cars out on track. All of them look identical. It was not Floyd Kerr and Turner Stroll. They're still all well and good, but poor old Matt Brewer in the track that's closest to Milwaukee. You would think that would be good luck for a Brewer, but unfortunately not the case here at Elkhart Lake. He ends the day with some heavy, heavy damage, and Austin Lawrence going to be ruining today. It was a great race for him, and I think he'll still hold that high into the final 2 weeks and the final 3 weeks of the season. He knows he can fight for top 5s, and that should give him a little bit of confidence, even with the disappointing result.
Let's hope so. Nobody's going to be getting much confidence from this in GT4, I've got to say, apart from Justin Brim. Conor Wagner leads the charge behind, but he's ahead of Austin Wilkins right now. He will lose another few points. The battle in GT4 getting very interesting now. Just 10 points between him and Wagner. He doesn't have that safety net of a drop round because he didn't start at round 3 back 4 weeks ago. But he has taken 3 on the bounce on the run up towards this one. This would be 4. The momentum very much with the Porsche in that championship for the moment.
Back up to Bergstrom and Kanaan here. Bergstrom's closed that gap again. That is a very, very rapid number 66 car. But Tony Kanaan has been perfect. He's made no mistakes, while Bergstrom has been a little bit bobbly in that number 66. He's going to have another run up the front straight here. Remember last time he was in the draft of the number 6. He had a fantastic run, got to make the move into turn 1, and it's happening again. That number 66 is flying in a straight line. TK knows he can't do anything about that. Bergstrom sets the fastest lap, and he's going to try and take third into turn 1, and he can. Don't throw it off the road in turn 3 this time, or do it in turn 1.
Well, yeah, he's got wide at turn 1 anyway, and Tony Kanaan's going to have the chance at the inside of turn 3. He brakes super late on the way in there. Bergstrom forced to give the place over. Kanaan just pulls it up in time. I think Bergstrom will have the run on the slipstream to have another chance at turn 5, though. Maybe a little bit too far back. Gave a little bit too much room, maybe, to Kanaan on the way towards turn 3. Would have to be a big dive, and so he's going to be behind for now. There's still 2 laps to go after this one. And there will be another chance for Bergstrom to go through. I'm pretty impressed that he's been able to close back in on Kanaan, and he's not going to want to let this position go now. We're going to fight for it to the very end, and this is arguably the last place in LMP3 that's really actually going to be fought for.
Unless there's any drama, this is going to be the last real battle. But Bergstrom, over the course of the race, I think, or over the course of this entire session, he's been the faster of the 2 drivers, but he's been a little bit more mistake-ridden. He's had more bobbles than Kanaan has had, and that's why he's got to keep doing this repeating act, basically. He's got to keep getting by, and he's got to keep closing it down. He's got to keep making overtakes, because every time he gets in front, every time he gets on defense instead of offense, he seems to struggle a little bit. But let's see, is this going to be the move where it finally counts? Around the outside into Canada corner, backs out of that one, knows he's not going to be able to brake late enough, and he's going to wait for the front stretch once more. He's going to repeat the same move he's done for the past 2 laps, and hopefully he can get it slowed down for turn 1 this time when that comes around.
Needs these points, does Alec Bergstrom. He's chasing Wayne Castile in the championship and does need quite a few points in terms of a gain there to get near to the championship leader. This position would do him wonders with that. He gets very close over the line. We come back to Conor Wagner here, who's under pressure from Austin Wilkins, but it's Alec Bergstrom down the inside of Tony Kanaan, who's going to hang it round the outside. Great battle between these two, and Tony Kanaan holds on round the outside of turn 1. Very impressive defence. And supports my theory, I think, a little bit, Joey, that Kanaan has maybe got a bit more downforce on, because you can't do that without with a really trimmed out car. That was impressive around the outside at turn 1.
Very well done, but Bergstrom, again, he's got the draft down into turn 5, takes a peek to the inside, lets TK know he's there, peeks the nose in, but no move is going to be made there. He's going to have to wait until the back straight again. This Wilkins-Wagner battle, the WW through turn 1. Wilkins is very, very aggressive right now. He's making dives, he's making peeks into turn 3, again lets Conor Wagner know he's there. Doesn't, or isn't, able to make the move at the very least.
Earlier, both of those two are chasing Rem in the championship, and so both want to finish second there as Kanaan makes his break through traffic. I think has maybe got the gap to go to the line with now. This should be the final lap at this next one. So Kanaan has got a bit of a gap now. He'll just have to slow down through the kick though, and that will allow Bergstrom back into the fray again. Kanaan has worked hard to get this margin, but it's got away again. I think Bergstrom is close enough for one last chance on the last lap.
That was the worst time to catch that GT4 traffic through the kink, and that has brought Bergstrom back in here. He's within the critical range here, and off of Canada corner, a little bit of a bobble from Kanaan there. That's going to bring Bergstrom back in here. This is the closest he's actually been onto the front straight. If he can get a good exit out of the final corner here, he might be able to blow by him into turn 1. Up front, Wayne Castile has kind of run away with things, but here comes his teammate Bergstrom to put on the biggest show. He's going to be already on the inside across the start-finish line, and he might be past the nose of Kanaan into turn 1.
Towards turn 1 we go. Alec Bergstrom on the inside and through on Tony Kanaan. How long is he going to last for this time, though? He's only got 1 lap to hold on, and traditionally he's barely held on for a couple of corners so far. He darted towards turn 3, easing the apex and making sure that Kanaan is at least behind him for 1 more turn. They're locked together on the way down towards turn 5. There may be traffic interference this time. Kanaan in the slipstream, struggling to get anywhere. Bergstrom's trimmed out LMP3 at the moment, helping him massively, but Kanaan brakes late on the outside line. It's going to go all the way round. There's a lock-up from Bergstrom, who will hang on with the help of the BMW in the way.
Oh, a little bit of contact between Kanaan and Chapman. That's going to be very, very good news for Alec Bergstrom. A little bit of a gap there for him to hang on to. But that was fantastic by Tony Kanaan to be that late in the brakes. That goes to show he had a little bit more downforce, but can't stick with Bergstrom. Unless Bergstrom has a little bit of a bobble here into turn 8, I think that's the battle for third 1.
So this race is pretty much won by Wayne Castile now. Nearly 9 seconds is the gap to Adam Brockway, who is continuing to drop back now. Pushed into the clutches of Alec Bergstrom behind. But it's going to be another success for Wayne Castile. He returned to winning ways last week after a couple of weeks away and a bit of a wobble mid-season. Now, on his way back to the top step again. 5th win of the season. Wayne Castile extends his championship lead over his teammates by winning here at Road America. After the pit stops never really in doubt, and in the end, the gap obvious between him and the rest. Adam Brockway is going to finish second, despite a bit of a wobble towards the end of this race. 8.7 seconds there, and in a great battle, Alec Bergstrom beats Tony Kanaan to the final spot on the podium, and what great entertainment that was.
Absolutely fantastic. And it's not over yet. Justin Ream, he's going to get some more glory here. Not happy with the baker's dozen of wins he has in GT4. He's already cemented himself as the most successful GT4 driver in PRL history, passing Rob Campbell finally. But he's going to go for one more victory here in the most dominant of fashions. This will be win number 14 for him if he can survive one more corner. We know he might be out next season, has a few other league commitments he's got to take care of, but the battle for second isn't over. Wilkins gets passed by Wagner.
Right at the end, Wilkins is in front in second place. Justin Wren's going to take the win here by nearly quarter of a minute at the end here in GT4. It's another win for Justin Wren to extend his championship lead. He has now got 4 in a row in this series, and Austin Wilkins is going to beat Conor Wagner to the line. A flash of the lights at the end. I'm not sure Wagner's particularly impressed with that one, but he's going to have to deal with it because it's fair and square from the looks of it. Wilkins there got through to Canada corner, and personally I didn't really see anything wrong. Wagner's going to be disappointed to have lost out so late though.
And Darian Roy, just saw him there parking it up in turn 5. Great race for him, P6. Kind of one of the underdogs in the championship. Darian Roy sits just outside of the top 10, and that'll be a solid result for him.
Wayne Castile takes the win though ahead of Adam Brockway and Alec Bergstrom, who round out a more in the M Squad purple lockout of the podium. Tony Kannar was there in 4th as well, with Evolve Sim Sports starting off the rest of the teams in 5th place. Darian Roy, Sickford and Bradley Holly, Vincent General, Mark Kalin, the only drivers on the lead lap. Justin Wren wins in GT4 after only being lapped on 2 occasions. Austin Wilkins beat Conor Wagner to the line with that late pass. Tony Stroll, Floyd Kerr round out the top 5 with Nathan Deering just missing out. What about racing with Nicholas Schwartz and Jeff Evans were in 7th and 8th, with William Brennan and Aaron Create riding out 9 Mercedes in the top 10. Carl Bishop just misses out on that top 10 in 11th. Doug Evans there finishes in 12th ahead of Will Jennings, Douglas Curry, Jared DePlue and Matt Brewer, who had that crash of course late on. Joshua Chinsky emerged from a long stop to finish 4 laps down, as did Austin Lawrence with that late crash. Travis Chapman, Jake Haskell and John Duong all quite a few laps down, as well as Miguel Ruiz, Ozzy Milwade, Nicholas Johnson, Michael Terrafino, Jeffrey Seabock and Ryan Kings at the end of that race. Well, it was a slow start but a lively finish and a great battle as well towards the end. Let's talk to the LMP3 winner after that one, Wayne Castile, who joins us now. Wayne, welcome in. Good to have you with us. Back to winning ways for you once again after a bit of a wobble mid-season. You've now taken 2 in a row once again. This is your 5th win of the season. Was this a particular surprise to you though, because you weren't leading the whole way out, and there was a mistake of course from Adam Brockway that of course gave you the lead. You were obviously able to hold it quite comfortably after that. Were you surprised to see Brockway make such an unforced error, really, such a mistake as he did there in that race?
Yeah, I mean, Adam was asking for some help actually last night, and I've done 30 official races here this week, so I've had a lot of practice going into this race, and I gave him what I was doing, and he improved on that, and absolutely just shocked how I was absolutely flabbergasted how quick he was. So started that race, and he started pulling away. I was just trying to fuel save, try to save the tires. And maybe, you know, heaven forbid he makes a mistake, then I could go. But, you know, if he didn't make any mistakes, he was going to win that race 1,000%.
And in the end, you were able to capitalise on it and, finish 8 seconds in front. I mean, in terms of the championship now, you're over 20 points ahead of Alec Bergstrom, and he's your teammate after all as well. How are you feeling about that situation going into the final 3 rounds?
Well, the final 3 rounds are 2 brand new tracks to the service this season, so that's going to be a little interesting. I've done 0 laps at either of them, so you know, to have a little bit of a lead over Alec, that's great. You know, I'm hoping we can get Adam up here towards the top of so that way we can take a 1-2-3 at the end of the season. Obviously, he has the pace to do it, so that's you know, real happy with everybody's performance on Maradness right now, and you know, we just got to keep going on. 3 races left to go.
Absolutely. I don't think, by the way, you'll be alone in those 2 races that are new to the service, because I, for one, don't even know the layout of either of them. So you won't be alone in having not turned it up so far, I wouldn't imagine. Congratulations on the win tonight, Wayne, and we look forward to seeing you next week at Willow Springs.
Absolutely. I'll see you guys there. Hey, got to shout out Maradness, Daniel Morad, Stu, and Dion, Alex, Alec, and Adam did a great job tonight I got to thank our sponsors, Advanced Sim Racing, Ginger Liveries, Oceana Coffee. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you next week.
Thanks very much. Wayne Castile there, victorious here at Road America in the LMP3 class. In the GT4 class, Joey, it was Justin Rem, who took the win, and you're standing by with him now.
Indeed I am. GT4 winner Justin Ream here. Seemed like somewhat of a calmer race, I think, with the LMP3 traffic for you. Some other drivers ran into trouble, but seemed like a fairly calm race for you here at Road America. Did it feel that way in the car?
Yeah, it was kind of a snooze fest, I guess. The LMP3s weren't terrible this race, so the traffic wasn't too bad, and yeah, it was a good race.
The tale of the season so far has been you in the Porsche, Connor in the Mercedes. At a place like Road America, it certainly seemed like the Porsche had the upper hand, but we've got some funky tracks coming up for the last couple of weeks. Willow Springs coming up next week, Aragon to finish it out. Who do you think's going to have the upper hand?
I'm not too sure. I haven't driven GT4 at either one of those tracks yet, so we'll have to wait and see, I guess.
Well, congrats on win number 14, the PRL, extending that lead in GT4, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Justin Ream, victorious in GT4, Ewan. Tale of two winners. Justin Ream, dominant this season in GT4. Wayne Castile, dominant this season in LMP3. Wayne is a Pittsburgh driver, though, so of course I'm going to be biased towards him. Maybe that's why he's had so much success.
I'm sure that's not helping him, but you know, we can put it down to that if you want to. By the way, who's closest to Justin Ream in terms of, as we just see, Willow Springs coming up next week. By the way, make sure you tune in again, 8:30 ET for that one. Who's closest to Justin Ream in the GT4 all-time winners list?
Well, nobody active is especially close. Second on the list is Rob Campbell with 12 wins. He hasn't been in GT4 for many seasons. Third is Sean Campbell, unrelated. He hasn't returned to the PRL for a couple seasons. He's a very, very busy boy. Then James David, Beckham Jasir, John Betafer. Basically all sorts of drivers who aren't in the series anymore. Connor Wagner's the only other one with wins who's currently in the series right now.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, doing very well is Justin Ream, and yeah, we've had plenty of success from him so far this season. Final thoughts from you, Joey, on the race here tonight at Road America in the LMP3 GT4 Challenge. It was on your screen, Wayne Castile who wins in the end. These titles now both edging towards being confirmed. Obviously, you can't take your drop week in the final round, and that puts a lot of pressure on that final round, obviously, and so it will go down to the end likely for both of them, but Castile and Ream certainly in control of their respective categories.
Yeah, that's always difficult in the PRL because you can't drop that final week. It's making sure people show up in the final week. That's the reason they do it. And yeah, you gotta show up, because if you make one mistake at that Spanish track at the wrong moment, if you get taken out or take somebody out, your championship hopes could be Aragon.
That is why we have Joey Tebben at RaceSpotTV.
Took me 2 hours to get there, but we did it.
Very good pun. Very good pun. Not everyone will have enjoyed that, but I certainly did. So thanks very much for that. And thanks to everyone who has been tuned in here over the course of the evening. It's been great to have you along for the ride once again in the GR86 series. It was Alexis Moisan once again taking his 7th win out of 7. Familiar winners in LMP3 and GT4 as well. Wayne Castile in LMP3, Justin Ream in GT4 here at Road America. And they edge closer to, all of them edging closer to championships in their respective categories. Next week on Monday, we'll be returning at Monza and Willow Springs for 2 races, so I hope you will join us then. And I hope you'll join us tomorrow as well, as it's GT3 night. Joey will be back once more for the racing there. Another couple of races coming your way here on RaceSpotTV tomorrow night. So we will see you then. A big thanks to everyone who's been watching. I've been Neil Leary alongside Joey Tebben. And until we see you tomorrow night for more action in the PRL, it's goodbye for now.